This is Rugby Radio
with Stuart Cameron.
Brought to you by Borders College.
Well, hello, welcome to Rugby Radio, which comes to you live from Riverside Park in Jedburgh this afternoon. We're here for the 3 o'clock kick-off between Jedforest and Selkirk at the bottom of the Premiership. It's a must-win game for both teams. Full live commentary with Dale Clancy and Robin Purdy coming up for that one. We'll also be covering the 2 o'clock games as well, keeping you up to date with the latest scores as they happen. Plus, last night, Stuart McFarlane and I went down to the Hoyk 150th anniversary celebration dinner, and in the first 90 minutes we'll be bringing you interviews with 7 of the stars, with no less than 331 caps between them. You can count them later to check that I'm right. So you're going to hear from Andy Irvine, Tony Stanger, George Graham, Derek Turnbull, Iain Milne, Colin Deans and former All Black captain Sean Fitzpatrick. So that's a star-packed programme for you to enjoy, so stay tuned with us right the way through until 5 o'clock. But let's begin with a look at the games being played today across the country, starting in the Premiership, and Robin Purdy joins me right off the bat, and it's a day of derbies really, with 2 from the Borders, 2 from Edinburgh and a West Coast one in there as well.
Good afternoon, Stuart. Yeah, there's some intriguing rugby matches this afternoon, none more so than here at Jedforest for, you know, the bottom teams win or bust clash, if you like, against Selkirk, who are directly in the table above them. But you know, as you say, there are some tasty looking fixtures.
The Edinburgh one's Curry against Musselburgh, which should be rather good, and Edinburgh Accies against Heriot's Blues. That one in particular, I mean, there's been some real ding-dongs between those two over the years.
It's a tough one to call. I think at the top of the table in the last week or two has just started to get that familiar looking feel about it again. Accies at one point looked like they might have a job on their hands to get into the top 4, but they find themselves there now. But yeah, Heriot's definitely massively improved on where they were last season, and they will still have designs to push on and knock their Edinburgh rivals out of that top 4 position.
Well, they're both 2 o'clock kick-offs, and we'll be hearing from Sam Matthews at Rayburn Place shortly for his preview of the Accies against Heriot's Blues game, but also 2 o'clock kick-off, Mar against Glasgow Hawks.
The West Coast derby in the Premiership. Mar, you'd have to say, you know, looking at the table and the form that both these teams have had this season, Mar will go into that as favourites for me. Of that there is no doubt. And I noticed, I think it was yesterday, that their hooker, Glasgow Hawks hooker Cairncross, is out today, as is their captain Stephen Leckie. Probably their 2 best forwards, in my opinion. So yeah, tough ask down at Troon today for the men from Glasgow. So
the Premiership then, obviously Jedforest and Selkirk will be dealing with that very, very shortly, and also Kelso against Hoyk. But in National 1 today, Dundee against Ayr, Gala versus GHK, Glasgow Accies against Watsonians, Highland v GHA, and Melrose against Biggar. Obviously Ayr looking for 11 on the trot.
And who would bet against them? Some might say it has the slight look of a banana skin about it. Not for me though, I have to say. I think Ayr will emerge from that with 5 points. I think the fixtures in National 1 today look easier to call than some of the ones in the Premiership. You know, Ayr I think will win at Dundee. Gala, you'd like to think, will have it pretty comfortable at home to GHK. Likewise, Glasgow Accies against Watsonians, Highland, GHA and Melrose at home to Biggar. They're probably a bit easier to call.
In National 2, it's Aberdeen Grammar against Falkirk, Berwick versus Stirling County, Kirkcaldy against Gordonians, Newton Stewart against Lasswade, and Peebles versus Stewart's Melville. Well, the one that screams out there, Newton Stewart at home on an unbeaten run of 8 games against the top of the table Lasswade.
Yeah, that's the mouth-watering one, isn't it? And the men from Peebles will have one eye on that, or what's happening in that particular fixture over at Newton Stewart, as they themselves are at home to Stew Mel today, and they'll be looking for 5 points from that, which will keep them right where they need to be in the upper echelons of the league. But yeah, Lasswade sat at the top. That's going to be a tricky game through there for them today.
And just quickly into Division 3, we've got Allen Glens against Hamilton, Cartha Queen's Park versus Boroughmuir, Dumfries v Hillhead Jordan Hill, Howe Fife against Orkney, and West of Scotland against Preston Lodge. So some interesting matches there. And of course into Division 4, Garnock still unbeaten, the only team with a 100% record, try bonuses in all 9 games, and they're against second place White Craigs. That's going to be an interesting one in National 4.
Yeah, top of the table stuff. And yeah, you can't get any better, as you say, than nine wins, all with a bonus point, and yeah, it's top of the table stuff, but you have to fancy them, and that one to go 10 from 10.
Well, we'll be looking more in depth at our featured game shortly between Jedforest and Selkirk, but less than 10 miles away at Poynter Park, it's Kelso versus Hawick. Last time the two met, it was 61-7 to Hawick at Mansfield Park. Kelso, though, they've proved that they're very, very competitive at home. They're going really well in Division 1, of course. They're going to be presenting Hawick with a much tougher challenge today.
Oh, absolutely. Hawick are not going to have it all their own way as they did in the reverse fixture. And yeah, again, another good looking tie. This, I think it's testament to Kelso that they, by all accounts, have a few boys off today, but you wouldn't really notice it with the naked eye when you look at their, when you look at their team sheet today, such as the strength in their squad. Hawick, of course, had their 150th anniversary dinner last night. I'm sure that could have been a late night for some, so we'll see if that has any impact. But yeah, sure to be a good game. There'll be a big crowd down there this afternoon. Hawick just to shade it.
Well, I was looking, I think there was about 40 Hawick boys down at the dinner last night, but I think they all had an early night. They left early at 9 o'clock into bed, and they'll be up and ready for Kelso today. I'm sure that's the scenario there. That's Robin Purdy. Thanks very much indeed. Right now, joining me are the two coaches from our main game. Ross Goodfellow is here from Jedforest. We'll talk to Sesh Henderson very, very shortly. He's the head coach at Selkirk. Let's start with you, Ross. I popped down during the week of Tuesday. It was absolutely lashing with rain, but the pitch is actually not looking too bad at the moment.
It's a wee bit softer than I thought, but that's just because it's such a good pitch. It surprises. It is softer than I thought it would be, but it'll not be there'll be any problems. I think it'll be a fair game of rugby.
Well, let's look at the team news. No Gary Munro this week, but it was replaced by Mark Glenn. Mark Glenn, I understand, is now out as well, and I think Gary's left the club, hasn't he?
Aye, Gary's decided he's just going to. I think he's gone away to Australia in February. I think he's just decided he's had enough. So, which is fair enough. He's put in a decent shift this year. Hey, look, it's been a hard slog this year. There's no denying it. It's been disappointing the numbers we've been getting, but the boys that have been putting it in, they're coming every week, and we're getting there, slowly getting there. But as I say, it's a numbers thing. We can't do anything about it. I mean, we can't bring 10 players in. It's just not going to happen. So we could maybe do with one or two boys back for Australia who seem to be losing quite a lot out there. But
maybe Jed should have a league over there.
Well, we could put a side out there, I think. But as I say, it is what it is, and we'll just have to get on with it. But I'm happy with the squad we've got today. We've got a decent bench. Hey, we've got nothing to lose now. Yep. Everybody's written us off. Everybody thinks they've just got to roll us over 5 points. So we'll just get stuck in and see where we end up.
But as I said on Tuesday night, talking to David Grieve, no one's actually going to say it's all over until it's all over.
To be honest, I've stopped looking at the league. I mean, it's not pretty, so I look at it. I just look at every team we're playing and I think, are we good enough to turn them over? And I do believe that. I think if we get it right, I think we could beat anybody. We played Mar here, and if it wasn't just we played probably 50 minutes, and we still should have probably got more out of the game. We got a point, and I felt we deserved so much more out of that. Kind of we're doing it. Kelsey got beat by 9 points. So there's games there where we've performed, but just not done it as a whole. The fitness probably is showing a wee bit at the end, but as I say, we're getting a wee bit more numbers doing. We're getting a bit of a more settled squad. So today, look, if there's a chance of winning, this has got to be right at the top. Like so, any game at home, we're looking to win. But I mean, Selkirk is a team above us, so we're going to have to put it all in and see what happens.
100 points in the last game between you two. A lot of running rugby and very competitive right up to about halfway through the second half, and then kind of fell away a wee bit.
We had quite a few boys off. Our backline probably wasn't as strong as we'd like to have been. Scoring points isn't the problem, and we've been scoring points.
You've been over 30 points, I think, 4 times.
Ken, so scoring points isn't a big issue. We have tightened up a wee bit, but not enough. I mean, we're still shipping 30 points. That's too many. I felt against Curry last week, I didn't actually think we played that well, but we lost 2 early tries, and then there was an interception and an injury time try that made it look like we were never in the game. But I didn't think we played that well last week, so I was disappointed after that. I thought we would have done a bit better, but we're giving away 2 early tries, and you just end up chasing the game. And we kicked poorly. Curry attacked quite well when we kicked it, and that's someone we've tried to work on a bit. Our chase has been quite poor. We're chasing in some areas and not in the others, and then all of a sudden, when you get broken, the chips are doing and on. When things aren't going your way, it's so difficult to get out. But as I say, hey, we'll go for it today, and I'd be really disappointed if we weren't in it at the end.
Of course, it wouldn't have gone unnoticed that Selkirk have been slow starters. 20-0 against Emberakis, 90-0 against Curry. So is it all guns blazing at the start?
Well, it is. I mean, we'll just go all guns blazing anyway. But we need to be a bit. We've gave away some early tries, and it doesn't suit us chasing the game because we just get a bit frantic, and I prefer it to be a bit more structured. And look, if we get 20 points up, I'd be pretty disappointed if we lost. But I think Selkirk are in a similar situation to us. They'll be looking below and they're going, right, let's just keep above Jed, and then they'll get to next year and they'll probably recruit a bit as well. But we just need to settle into the game a bit better. Again, we made a few silly mistakes last week. We lost an early try, gave away some penalties, and the next thing you're 2 tries doing. Again, against a team like Curry, it's no easy to come back for that. So today I'd like to just settle in a bit, first 15 minutes, feel our way into the game, and as I say, I'm not really worried. I think we'll score points. I think that's a problem, but we just need to be a bit tighter in defence.
Well, the last time I saw you was against Mar, in fact, where you very nearly won. You outscored them 5 tries to 4. It was a good performance that day. Let's hope you get a good performance today as well.
Cheers.
I'm going to bring in head coach of Selkirk now, Sesh Henderson. How's the preparations been going for this one?
Look, after the result last week, we looked closely at a few areas we need to really to work on during the week, and training this week, Tuesday and Thursday, has been pretty intense. Players have reacted to what they achieved last week, what they need to work on, but also looking forward to what's going to be another, board the game today. And what these games they're going to be tough games. It's going to be a lot of pressure at times, but we're training how we're going to handle that and just really get the emotion out of the game and just make sure we play to our shapes and work really hard off the ball.
Now, of course, one thing that a lot of people have noticed lately is the slow starts with Selkirk, which you don't really want, particularly going 20 points down against Embrackes and 19 against Curry last week. What's the talk on that?
Well, we don't want it to happen. That's one thing. Yes, the start is important to us. We need to make sure that we're switched on from the start. Mindset's in a good place, and we don't give teams a start. If you look at the second half against both these teams, we won it. But if we didn't give them the start that we did, then we'll be 8 points or 10 points further up the table. So it's key that we make sure we get that right today, because if we allow Jet to get a full hold into the game, they've got a dangerous back, especially the back three. They've got a really workmanlike set it forward. So no, we don't want to be doing that today, because they'll just close the game out on us.
And no doubt they've seen your form lately, and they'll be coming right out the blocks.
I can see that. Yeah, it's ex-players lunch today. There'll be a lot of spectators, a good crowd, loud crowd, and we want to try and nullify that straight away and make sure that we come out the blocks. Okay, get ball, keep ball, and don't give them anything.
I was talking to James Bett, of course, during the week, and he was saying that the boys are brimming with confidence, not cockiness, not arrogance, but lots of confidence with them, and they're focusing on matters above themselves rather than down below.
100%. We want to try and get in that pack above us, then put real pressure on the games leading up to Christmas, because we're confident that if we perform, we can pick up points in every game. And compete in every game, that's more importantly. So yes, we're slowly building confidence, but not going ahead of ourselves, because there's points to be taken in every game leading up to Christmas. Training's been really good in terms of numbers, because I think your first 15 is only good as how your seconds play as well, and numbers are there at training to help them, they help us, and put pressure on players, and just try to build up that competitiveness between the two teams is really challenging. But once you get it right, that's probably one of the reasons why we're doing better at our level. Ben
Pickles is playing today, very, very promising youngster.
Yes.
He's been away, obviously, playing higher level. Good to have him back, and also Munro Job.
Yes, so we've got Ben starting at 13. That's his natural position. We've had him on the wing before, but at 13 is his natural position, but it helps us with Andrew Grant City. Picked up a knock a few weeks ago, so he might be a couple of weeks away. And we've got Munro Job on the bench, and we've started Kieran Westlake, who's a new club development officer, and so he's dropping out of Super 6 and playing for us for the rest of the season. Now let's see what he brings to the party today. So I'm hoping he's a good ball carrier, has done well at training during the week, he's a good talker, so I'm excited to see the two of them play today.
Some old heads in there as well. James Bett, we mentioned Ross Nixon, of course. He's always there, isn't he? I think I was talking to him the other way. He's quite keen to play in the back row pretty soon, isn't he? But he's at centre at the moment.
Look, every club wants a Ross Nixon. Look, he's just 100% all the time. He comes in, he's broken after a game, but he just gets himself up and gets fizz on a Tuesday, and he's running again. After that, and it's at 35 to see some of the displays he's had in leadership is crucial for us on that park. Crucial for Selkirk Rugby Club to, the way we're playing is all around him basically.
Well, it's a border derby. The last time you met, it was 100 points scored, 65 for you, 35 for Jed. Well, the sun's just coming out, which is great, but I think it's probably not going to be quite as high this week.
No, well, I hope there's tries, but for one team. But we need to be working really hard defensively. We had some good sets last week against the Hawks. They put us under a lot of pressure. But we need to stay in the game. I keep on saying, stay in the game, we'll get opportunities. And we did get an opportunity last week. And hopefully, if we stay in the game and play our attack with tempo in the way we can, and get the right players doing the right things at the right time, I think we'll score tries. We'll get opportunities to score tries. I hope we take them.
Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
That's Sesh Henderson. Now, after the break, our first of 7 interviews from last night's Hoyk 150th anniversary celebration dinner.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Your pet deserves the best, and that's why your pet deserves the care and treatment offered by Border Vets. We focus on delivering the very best care to each and every one of our patients and clients. We get to know you and your pet and offer treatments tailored to every animal's individual needs, from our conveniently located surgeries in Galashiels, Selkirk and Earlston. Ask about our Pet Health Club for your cat or dog, giving you peace of mind by spreading the cost of vaccinations, regular checks and more. From dental care to travelling abroad and the whole range of veterinary services, bordervets.co.uk is where you'll find everything you need to know. Border Vets, where your pets are part of our family.
This is Rugby Radio, brought to you by Borders College.
Welcome back to Riverside Park. A pretty damp day with plenty of rain coming down earlier, but a little bit of sunshine peeking out at the moment, so hopefully it's not going to be too bad. Very soft underfoot though. Last night though, Hoyk celebrated their 150th anniversary season with a dinner for over 600 guests at Mansfield Park, and some of the guests read like a bit of a who's who of Scottish rugby. Stuart McFarlane and I were down there, and here's the first of the interviews from last night. We begin with former Hoyk player Derek Turnbull, who won 15 caps for Scotland at flanker.
Take us back, if you can, to your early memories of Hoyk rugby, Mansfield Park, what it was like, the aura about the place.
Well, I mean, I didn't go to a primary school in Hoyk. I was in a country. I grew up on a farm near the Carter Bar, so I played football until I was 14. But when I came to Hoyk High School, I was introduced to rugby. My first rugby coach was a guy called Sandy Grave from Gala. He was a new PE teacher, and I wanted to go swimming, and he decided, no, you're going to play rugby. So I progressed to the PSA, and I went to the PSA. The first co-chair was Norman Sudden, and on the committee was Hughie McLeod. So I trained when I was 14, and I got a game at the end of the season, played the following season, and then Hughie McLeod took me aside and said, right, you're not going to be playing semi-junior anymore, you have to go up to play junior rugby. So I went up and played for the Trades in 1978, and then I got my first game for Hoyk against Alnwick in November 1978, when obviously the South game on or something because there were players missing. I played 5 games that season, and it was the first time I met Derek Grant, who had been probably the biggest influence on my rugby career.
It's quite a graduation, quite a meteoric rise through the ranks.
Well, to a degree, but I mean, when you grow up on a farm, you're used to chasing coos and sheep, and chasing somebody in the rugby field was relatively easy compared to catch a runaway coo.
At that particular time, Hoyt was so dominant domestically, winning championships. Herrett's stole the crown in 1979, of course, but a championship win would be so valuable to the team and to individuals, and then the next step would be to represent the South before having aspirations to be an international.
Well, I came into the South team into the Hoyt team as a 17-year-old because obviously they had the great team of the 70s, and then of course someone retired and we were the next we were next generation. So we had a couple of follow years, but then we got a side together that was really built by Derek Grant, and obviously playing everything from playing for Hawick has been a bonus. Playing for the South, Scotland B caps, Scotland under 21 caps, and then Scotland caps and tours all became because of what we did here at Mansfield Park.
And Mansfield itself was a venue for some really famous South contests. It lent itself very well for that level of rugby as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest pitches in world rugby, and so it's a great surface to play on. It's a great venue for rugby, you know. And back in the day, the crowds, you could actually hear everybody say what they thought when you made a mistake.
And it would be very pointed and blunt.
Well, they're very direct and very informative, and it was very helpful to say, well, I'll not try and do that again.
and what's it like even today, coming back to the club, seeing a portrait of yourself with a Scotland cap on the wall, knowing that you are one of the famous sons to have gone all the way to international level?
Like I say, that was one of the extras that you get from playing for Hawick. I'm Hawick's 51st cap, and I'm very proud of that. Playing for Hawick was really the pinnacle in a degree, because you're playing for your town and you could not afford to let the town down, your family, because if you lost, you knew about it straight after the game in the clubhouse, and more so if you were on the street the following week, you knew that you had to do better the following week because you were told in no uncertain terms.
And finally, what was the flip side of that then? The best moment, or the best moments? Would that be the clinching of championships when you were wearing green?
I think so. I mean, after having gone through a 2-year rebuilding process, and then we won the National League 3 times in the trot in the early 80s, Border League as well, and we also did quite well in the 7th Circuit. For us, it was all about winning and then taking part. Winning was the most important aspect.
Derek Turnbull, who's currently recovering from a hip operation, but he was in fine form, chatting to Stuart McFarlane at the Hawick dinner last night. Well, next up, a true rugby legend, Andy Irvine, played his club rugby for Heriots, as well as winning 51 caps for Scotland.
It's great to be back down in Hawick. I mean, I had so many, great times down here. Didn't win very often, but we always had some super games and great hospitality.
I suppose they were the benchmark for a number of years in the early part of your time with Heriots, and that victory in 79, that championship in 79 must have been so significant given how successful Hawick had been up until that point.
Well, it was very special for us. When the league started, Hawick won the leagues the first 5 years on the trot, and we were the first team to win the league other than Hawick. And then Hawick again were very good in the early 80s. I think in the first 15 years of the leagues, Hawick won it 10 times. They were second twice and they were third twice. I mean, that's a fantastic record. And in the first 5 years of the leagues, they only lost 4 games in 5 years, which is absolutely phenomenal.
And what was it like when you met some of the Hawick players then at international level in terms of integrating with that border culture? Because obviously you would be city rivals coming down to the borders, but it would be a different dynamic when you were wearing dark blue.
The Hawick boys, they were always great fun. We had a particularly strong bond with them because Heriots and Hawick played each other twice a year. We played in September, we always played on New Year's Day. So, and that's been going on for nearly 100 years. So there was a very, very strong bond between the clubs. And also, we had great games. It was usually the Hawick pack against our backs. Hawick also had some fantastic backs. But I would have to say the most enjoyable club games that I played were playing against Hawick. We only won down here, I think, twice in 15 years. And it just goes to show how good a side they were.
Now, one man synonymous with rugby, synonymous with Hawick, and somebody you would get to know particularly well maybe after you retired, more so than when you were a player, was of course Bill McLaren. You sat next to him as part of a number of broadcasts. What was that experience like? You removed yourself from your playing days onto another part of your career and association in the game.
It was quite surreal in many ways because I was at primary school when Bill first started to commentate, and I remember the very first time I met him in 1970. it was a huge thrill for me to meet the great man. And then 10, 12 years later, we're actually behind the microphone together, working with each other. Bill was, without doubt, the best rugby commentator of all time. He was so knowledgeable, he had a great voice, he had a great manner, but Bill was also just a lovely, lovely guy. I mean, I don't know anyone that didn't have huge respect and admiration for Bill. I did quite a lot of radio and television with him in the years, and it was just great company. He knew his rugby inside out, he did his homework, his big sheets, but he was also just a really warm, kind, nice person, and he had a fantastic brain. I honestly don't know anyone that didn't have a kind word for Bill. And especially when we went abroad, if we went to New Zealand in particular, Bill was absolutely idolised in New Zealand. It really was. But even in Australia, South Africa, all the rugby union, officials and spectators, they all knew Bill McLaren.
Andy Irvine, my old hero from the old days, and hard to believe he's now 72 years old. He's looking really good on it as well. He entertained the audience with his stories last night at the Hawick 150th anniversary dinner. More interviews from that later on in the show. But kicking off at 2 o'clock this afternoon is Embrackis against Andy Irvine's old club, Heriots Blues at Rayburn Place. And covering that one for us this afternoon, it's Sam Matthews.
Yes, derbies don't get much closer geographically than this. Heriots making the short trip down from Golden Acre over to Stockbridge, where awaiting them is a steely determined 4th place Edinburgh Accies side. Both teams are coming off a loss last week, with Heriots obviously suffering that heartbreaker at Golden Acre to Kelso, conceding in the 80th minute to give them the loss. Accies also looking to turn their form around after Musselburgh beat them 37-35 last week. Accies coming into this game with 3 wins from their last 6, whereas Heriots are facing a potential 5th straight loss if the result does not go their way today. Accies looking to make up ground as well after Mars last week dropping points against Hawick, but as we mentioned, against Musselburgh they couldn't do the job, so now they're playing a chasing game. Obviously Heriots, they had a good strong game last week, but losing that game to Kelso, they'll want to be reclaiming 6, knowing that Kelso themselves have a tough fixture welcoming Hawick at Poynter Park this afternoon. Both sides make 4 changes to their starting 15s, with notable names missing out on both sides. Robbie Chalmers is out of the Accies squad altogether. Harry Hitchens for Heriots is also out after he scored 2 tries last week, so that could prove to be a pivotal miss. All the action with live updates coming on Rugby Radio from 2 p.m.
Sam Matthews, who's at Rayburn Place today. It's Embrackis against Heriots Blues. Now, National 1, top of the table, unbeaten Ayr, travelled to Dundee, aiming for 11 from 11. We can hear now from Ayr head coach Grant Anderson.
Dundee away, which is always a really tough fixture for anybody, especially this time of year. I'm not really sure what condition their pitch is going to be in, so that'll be a challenge for us. Obviously, they've played against Accies last week, and by all accounts, they've done quite well to score that many points against a good Accies team. So they have their own strengths, obviously, like every team in the league, and we need to make sure that we approach the game with the right mindset for an away trip, and also with the right targets and strategy that we want to play. When we played Dundee at home, that for us is probably one of our worst performances for me. So I'm really looking for quite a big contrast in kind of our attacking style and our defensive style, and how we're looking to approach that game. Because like I've said, our D did not function that day against Dundee, where we're actually really quite poor across the board. I know we won, but at the same time there was lots of that I was not happy with. So I'd like to meet Dundee head on and come away hopefully with what we want to come away from that game. Again, Dundee will pose some challenges. I've not had a chance to look at their team, but I would imagine with Eunice being back, etc., that it might be slightly different to what we faced, when we played them first time round. So again, we'll deal with that challenge in those circumstances when we get up there. But we're looking forward to the game and looking forward to keeping our momentum.
Back to the Premiership again, and Mar versus Glasgow Hawks, a tasty prospect on the West Coast. We can hear from both camps now. Hawks head coach Andy Hill, but first Mar's Stephen Adair.
Training this week has been focusing on the parts of the game against Hawick on Saturday where we thought we were poor. We had an open and honest conversation with the guys after it on the back of that game. We need to give all credit to Hawick though. They were the better team and they deserved the win. However, we know that if we want to be in the playoffs at year end, that we can't have another performance like that. We need to be more accurate, get better urgency and execute our game plan a whole lot better than we did. Hawks this week will be a big physical battle. Andy and his team, we know what they're like. They've done their homework on us. I would say their position in the league doesn't really justify them as a team. We know the threats that they pose. They have a big physical pack. Their backline's well drilled. So this will be a huge game. It's also got the added bonus of being the West Coast derby, so we know that we need to front up on that. We also need to make sure that we execute what we practice during the week, and our discipline needs to be at 100% if we're looking to come on the right side of the scoreline on Saturday.
This week we're without Stephen Leckie. He's going to be out with a broken rib he suffered against Selkirk. Lewis Stewart is having to work this weekend. Ryan Howie, that started at 7 at the weekend, sustained a concussion, so he's out. The other one was Paul Cairncross, is 50-50 at the moment with a dead calf, to see whether or not he'll manage to pull through. So it's going to ask a lot of the squad. It's going to give guys an opportunity to try and come back into the squad. Some guys to try and maintain positions in that squad as well, because these guys coming back in will obviously be looking to try and get their spot back. But it gives guys an opportunity. The guys who've been actually wanting to see how they're going to cope under a lot of pressure this weekend at Mar, because we know the type of rugby they play. They're going to be physical. They're going to be up front and confrontational with us, so we need to pick a squad that's going to obviously try and combat that, and obviously still be able to play the brand of rugby that we know, whereby if we play it, we know we'll cause more problems, as we did that and should have come out the right end of the result in the first part of the season. But kind of the story of our season so far, we've just not managed to finish games off. We've not managed to sustain a long enough period of time where we've been on top to really run away with a game or come out the right side of some of these really close results. So that's what we're going to have to try and do this weekend against Mar.
That's Andy Hill, head coach of Glasgow Hawks. Before that, Stephen Adair from Mar. Should be an interesting West Coast derby there. In Division 2, Berwick are at home to Stirling County, still looking for their first win of the season. Craig Deakins is Stirling County's head coach, and we'll get his views right after Berwick's Paul Pringle.
Real key game for us, probably more so than even last week with Stirling County at home. In terms of team news, Jordan Patterson unfortunately sustained a knee injury last week, which looks like it's going to keep him out for a couple of weeks. Jordan's been great for us this season, the real cornerstone of the scrum. So that is a bad break for us. So hopefully it'll not be too long. We do have guys like Jason Gerwood and Stu Gilchrist who can come in there and they'll do a good job. We don't have James Thompson available this week, so we'll be making some changes in the backs. But by and large, we're approaching this game the same way as we have every other week. We like to play the brand of rugby that we do. We'll go into this really just wanting to, up our work rate, keep the intensity, move Stirling round the paddock, and we've got a big lunch on before the game. So we have 80 plus sponsors there, so it'd be fantastic if the lads can put on a bit of a show for them and they can be there to witness the first win of the season, all being well.
They've played Peebles, Newton Stewart, Falkirk and Stumel. All these games have been really close. So it's home advantage is a big one, especially down there. They've got hospitality this weekend, so it's going to be a big day for the players down there. However, we're going down there wanting to back up what happened last weekend for us against Aberdeen. We're going down there wanting to play the kind of rugby that we want to play. It's going to be a hard physical game, but the players that we've got, hopefully we can go down and do the job. There's a couple of injuries from last weekend, so a few of the boys coming back in that have featured already this season for us. To date so far we've used 45 players, which is really good. We're giving all these young boys that experience, playing from the seconds, playing up to the first 15, all these young boys coming in. And the good thing now is, we're picking up a couple of injuries, but we're bringing guys in that maybe have featured 2 or 3 games earlier on in the season. So it's another opportunity for them, the guys, to come in, make a stake for the jersey. So hopefully this weekend we can go down, get a job done, get back up the road.
Paul Pringle and then Craig Deakins. Berwick against Stirling County. Other games in National 2, 3 and 4. Let's have a quick look. Aberdeen Grammar and Falkirk is happening at Ruby's Law. Berwick versus Stirling County. Kirkcaldy against Gordonians. Newton Stewart against Lasswade. And Peebles versus Stewart's Melville. That's happening in National 2. National 3, Allen Glens v Hamilton. Cartha Queen's Park v Boroughmuir. Dumfries versus Hillhead Jordan Hill. Howe of Fife against Orkney. And West of Scotland against Preston Lodge. But back to the interviews we recorded last night at Hoyk's 150th celebration dinner, and it was great to meet up with former Gala and Hoyk head coach George Graham, who reflected on his time at the club.
It was hard work. It was really, really hard work, but very fulfilling. Especially when we lost 10 games on the bounce, and then we bounced back and we had another 10 games and we won, and we staved off relegation. So yeah, I had very, very fond memories of he being here as the Hoyt coach, and obviously coming as the Gala coach as well.
And of course you're mindful of the success of the club and the position of the club within the Scottish rugby fabric.
early 80s when I started my rugby. So Hawick were the team that everybody talked about. And then, so you're always aware of where you go. And when I came down here as an under 18 and we played, I think we played at Hawick and I played at Gala. These are massive appointments that you're, for me, to be involved in as a youngster. But I think back then I don't think you grasp the magnitude of how big these clubs are in terms of where they stand in the world of rugby. And Hawick, as we've already established, is up there with some of the best clubs in the world and known for that.
And to be able to withstand all the pressures that have come as a consequence of the professional game says a lot for the town itself, but it says a lot for the Borders area that, you know, for such a small population, these clubs still do exist. Some are finding life difficult at the moment, but they still are independent institutions.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. And as you said, I think it's to do with the towns. I think it's a support. The support is second to none here. I mean, everybody gets behind the clubs all the time, and they make sure that there's always people coming down here, come through thick or thin, the supporters come and join the club. And there's always people behind the bar, and there's always things going behind. I think, you know, John Thorburn is one of the guys that I've known for a long time, when I was at the Borders, and he obviously does a huge amount of work behind that. And obviously I've known Rory Bannerman for quite a long time as well, and he does huge stuff that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes that keeps these clubs going. And as you say, through times where other clubs and professionalism, and when you lose players, but there's a steady stream of players coming through. And it just keeps happening, and long may it continue.
And finally, I suppose this evening, when you look at that 150 years of history, you do represent, you know, a focal point of a particular time in recent times, when you were the one, you know, dishing out the rather firm words at half time to try and maybe turn a game on its head, and you did that more often than not.
The focus is not on me. I think as a coach, you can only point players in the right direction. And I would never ever take any of the plaudits that go with how Hawick managed to do that. The biggest challenge I had was getting them to believe in you, getting them to try and do the stuff that you want them to do. When they did it, they just took over. They then, you know, they found their feet, and it's that buying into it. It's buying into what a coach wants you to do. And I think that all the coaches that came before me, and even all the coaches, Matty's doing a fantastic job since I've left, and I'm sure he'll long may continue. But I think certainly from my point of view, I really enjoyed coaching Hawick. I think they're a great bunch of guys. Most of them are still playing, and I think they've even continued to get better, and they're still on a fantastic win. I continually watch Stuart's website every Monday, and I check the results and the videos that come on, and I watch them, and I see where both of the clubs that I'm affiliated to and how they're doing, and you know, and long may it continue.
Good to hear from George Graham again. One of the most famous tries, though, in Scottish rugby history is the one scored for Scotland against England when Tony Stanger got the ball down against England in 1990. And it'll keep being shown until we get another Grand Slam, so it could be a while yet. He spoke with Stuart McFarlane and told him what it was like to be back at Mansfield Park.
So many memories, right from, you know, coming down to do as just a child to kind of get some training down here and be on the pitch and coming down to watch, and then just in the hall there seeing the pictures of the teams you played with and people you remember and forgotten a bit about, and then reminds you things. So it's just awesome to be back. Always is, to be fair. Great memories of my time at Hawick Rugby Club.
Now, when you were a youngster going through your teens and that, Borders Rugby was really almost at its peak, because when you think of the success of the Hawick side, the success of Kelso coming through winning championships, Gala winning the title in '83, the Borders was the place to be if you wanted to win a championship medal.
100%. Just, you know, lucky to be born and bred in Hawick, and you know, there was that aspiration to, you know, some people in the town have done it and be able to play at the highest level. So, you know, but it was hard. You know, there was so many good players in your age group at school and the year above you, so you never took anything for granted. But that work ethic and, you know, determination to kind of get there was, I think, rubbed off on everybody. So it was, just back in those days when electronics weren't really a thing. You know, what did you go and do? You kicked the ball around, you played different games, but it was all outside. You know, and ultimately there was a nice pathway if you chose to decide to kind of progress and see where you could get to. There was a really nice pathway there through the schools, through the semi-junior teams, the junior teams, teams into Hawick and then beyond. So just fortunate if you're like rugby and you love it and you're kind of suited to it. A great place to be born.
That success that you had, you enjoyed so much at a young age, because we'll look at the contribution you made in a green jersey for Hawick, and then very quickly, suddenly you find yourself at district and then international level.
And that was the beauty of playing here, because if you manage to get into the Hawick team already, that's a significant achievement as a 17, 18 year old. It felt good, you felt proud of what you'd achieved, but also there was a rubbed off from the other players at the time. I was one of the young ones, in terms of what was required in terms of training and the commitment and the dedication. But because of the quality of the other players in the team, people are going to come in and watch Hawick. The selectors are going to come and watch. So, you're kind of in the shop window. So then it's up to you to kind of play well and then, be given a chance. So I was very fortunate to play with so many good players in my early part of my career, which kind of, and Hawick were really going well at that time as well. So it was, it was very fortunate, and I always have a huge admiration to not just the coaches but the other players who helped me to become the player I ended up being.
See if I can swim back up to the shore. No one's in the house, everyone is out. All the lights are on and the blinds are down.
That again, that's Hourglass by Squeeze. We'll dedicate that one to our technical guy Colin, who's in Blackpool at the moment. Right, we have some latest scores for you. Premiership, it's Curry 7, Musselburgh 3, Edinburgh Accies 0, Heriots Blues 7, Dundee 3, Ayr 7 in National 1, International 2, Newton Stewart 3, Lastwade 0, And we've already got a final score for you, because Howe Fife against Orkney was played at 12 o'clock this afternoon. Early kick-off. They've got an early ferry, I believe, so it went ahead early, and it finished Howe Fife 19, Orkney 24. Orkney, once again, successful, unbeaten this season. A tremendous result for them. One other score in East League 1 at the moment. It's Langham 6, it's Forrester 7. Well, let's go back to the interviews from last night at Hawick at their 150th anniversary, and one of the people that Stuart McFarlane spoke to was Colin Deans.
Well, it was special. I mean, you know, when I was being brought up in Mansfield Road, I lived in Mansfield Road, it was a situation that, you know, rugby was, you know, Bill McLaren introduced me to rugby down on the bottom pitch there at 9-year-old. You just couldn't wait to get selected for Hawick. It was always everybody's aim to make it to the big team.
And Bill had such an influence and a very sort of pointed way of directing you into a particular position.
Yeah, it was coincidence in many ways, you know. When you're 9-year-old and you're down, as I say, on the YM pitch, and Mr. McLaren's there in his green baggy tracksuit, and he asks everybody's name, and of course he was fortunate to play with my father in the Hawick side, and of course when he asked my name, Colin Deans, he said, "Is your father Peter?" Of which I replied, "Of course, yeah." And he says, "Well, you're a hooker then." So I owe him for the title of my autobiography as well. You're a hooker then. But he was extremely influential, just commentating from the time I started playing at Hawick and Rugby Special. He'd sit up in that box and follow us. And during my international career, he saw me he started my career at 9-year-old, and he saw me finish it when I was 32. Crossing New Zealand, my last game.
Yeah, magical journey, and he had
yes,
a lot to.
And he was always part of it. He was always there. You know, most Scotland games on a Friday, it was a press session, and Bill was always at Murrayfield, or when we were away, and he'd bring his little tin of Hawick balls, and you would always get a Hawick ball at the end of a training session, which was just reward, I think. The guy he never took the honours that he really should have, sort of developing us in, you know, different ways.
Yeah, deserving of many accolades, and he and so many others will be remembered on an occasion such as this tonight.
Yes, as I say, you know, the guy was lucky to be alive, I think, after the Second World War, and he lived life to the full. He represented Hawick. Many say he should have got a Scotland cap. He got many Scotland caps in a different way by promoting the sport in particular. I mean, people always, even nowadays, when I mention the name, everybody relates to his quips and what have you during the games they listen to. He's a big loss to me, to the commentary in a lot of games. He started me in my career and he saw me finish, so.
Yeah, good to hear Colin Deans again last night at the Mansfield Park, the big 150th anniversary dinner. Well, some latest scores for you at the moment. If you've just joined us, it's Curry 7, Musselburgh 3, Edinburgh Accies 0, Heriots Blues 7. Mar have taken the lead against Glasgow Hawks in the West Coast Derby. Mar 7, Glasgow Hawks 0. Dundee 3, Ayr 7 in National 1. In National 2, Aberdeen Grammar 3, Falkirk 0. And Berwick have taken the lead against Stirling County, looking for their first win, of course, of the season. It's now Berwick 7, Stirling County 3. Alan Glenn's out of the blocks pretty quick against Hamilton Bottom Club there, 4th against 10th. They've got 2 tries already, 14-0 to Alan Glenn's, and that scoreline from earlier, Howe Fife 19, Orkney 24, is a full-time score. Well, next up from Mansfield Park last night at the 150th anniversary dinner was Iain the Bear Milne, who told Stuart McFarlane about his own memories of playing at the home of Hawick.
The game that lasts in my memory, there's 2, was I came down here 2-3 years before that, and Hawick took 69 points off us, which was some doing when there was only 4 points for a try in those days. And I think I vowed as a person that would never happen to me again. And I think it actually made the club look at itself. And then I think it was the following year in the September fixture, we won 13-10, which was a massive shift in Heriots, and that led to the league-winning team.
Yeah, that maybe gave you the belief, because belief would be a huge part of being able to topple a side like Hawick at the time.
Yes, so we've always, over the years, either club, whoever been top or favourite or maybe not favourite, have always risen to this fixture, and it certainly probably was the biggest fixture in my career with Heriots.
I suppose you'd have to take the Border Derby approach when you were facing a side like Hawick.
We had the Watsons, probably our biggest local rivals, but certainly for people like myself and Andy Irvine, the big game was Hawick, because he had Jim Rennick in the opposite back, and it was Colin Deans and Alan Tomes and people like that. Big men in the Scottish scene, and eventually we sort of Heriots worked in fitness and a few basics and started to give the Hawick team a few things to think about.
And what would they like to socialise with when you were together with Scotland?
Oh, I had a great time. Always still in touch with one or two of them, and some of my best friends through that time with Scotland, with the Hawick lads. Great times with Alan Tomes, touring Canada and fishing from our bedroom window, which was overlooking the sea at the time, and I had a few drinks were always shared. And some of the older members, I remember looking at the Scotland programme with Hughie MacLeod and Dave Rollo, and they were my heroes as a youngster growing up, but I never came across oval ball till I was 11, so I was probably a late starter compared to some of the boys in Hawick.
But a night like this, coming down to Mansfield Park for an evening like this, was not to be missed.
No, definitely not. I got invited very kindly by Rory Bannerman, who I've got to know well over the years. 150 years of what is one of the great, if not the greatest club in Scotland, with the number of players they've produced and still continue to produce, even though the whole game's changed. So no, it'll be a pleasure and an honour to be here, and it's nice to see the pitch looking so good, because I can't see a bit of it in the dark, so it's great.
Iain Milne from Heriots, of course, a bit of a legend. Lots and lots of caps for Scotland, something like 44 I think he had back in the day. We'll be talking to Sean Fitzpatrick shortly, the New Zealand former World Cup captain as well. A couple more latest scores as they're coming in. These are the 2 o'clock kickoffs, of course. Curry 7, Musselburgh 3, game being played at Millennium Park. Enbrackies 0, Heriots Blues 7. Don't forget Jed and Selkirk and Kelso against Hawick. They're kicking off at 3 o'clock. And it's Mar 7, Glasgow Hawks 0 in the West Coast Derby. Into National 1, Ayr have scored again. Dundee 3, Ayr 14. Ayr top of the table, unbeaten this season. Gala v GHK kicks off at 3 o'clock. So does Highland against GHA and Melrose against Biggar. But another game being played at 2 o'clock. Glasgow Accies against Watsonians. Glasgow Accies taking an early lead there, 7 points to 0. International 2, it's Aberdeen Grammar 3, Falkirk 5. Berwick 14 now, Stirling County 3, couple of tries from them, the latest from Ryan Wilson. Newton Stewart 3, Lasswade 0 is a latest score, and a couple in that division being played at 3 o'clock. Kirkcaldy v Gordonians and Peebles against Stewart's Melville. And the latest we have in the East League 1 at the moment is Langham 5, Forester 7, and Enbrackies 0, Heriots Blues 12 is a latest score at Rayburn Place, and we'll be crossing to Sam Matthews very, very shortly for an update on that one. But on to the final interview from last night at Hawick's 150th anniversary special dinner. One of the guest speakers was All Black former captain Sean Fitzpatrick. Now, he admitted that Hawick's Bill McLaren was a real hero of his, and when he finally got to meet him, he was like a kid in a candy shop.
I've got this imposter syndrome that I've met Bill McLaren, where I'm an All Black, and I've met Bill, and he's talking about my father, and he knows everything about my history. He knows I'm a builder. He knows I work for Noel Cole Builders. He knows everything about me. It was like, oh my God, and this is Bill McLaren, the kid that I grew up listening to. So yeah, it's a great thrill. And driving down here today, and just having been at the World Cup and working with Jill Douglas, who I absolutely love. She's a consummate professional, but Hawick comes into the conversation quite a bit, and obviously Bill comes into the conversation a lot. So I love that. There's a bit of history, It's what our game's built on, and it's long may that continue, that we do things like this, because we need to educate people who Bill McLaren was, because my generation know. The next generation need to be educated, and having the exhibition here in Hoyk, which I went to see today, is so important for us going forward, that we have people like Bill McLaren who are the fabric of our history.
And as you say, the important that 20 years after his retirement, an exhibition does exist that marks his career and marks the incredible character that he was, because he was at death's door at one stage.
Yes, exactly, with TB, and that's maybe that was a way that he got into commentary, commentating on table tennis and all those things that they did. But I was looking at some of the stuff in that exhibition today in terms of when he was when he was serving, and in terms of the graphics and the drawings he did of where the enemy were coming, where the Nazis were coming, with their gun positions on these little drawings. But obviously he had a knack for that, and the attention to detail was very evident even in those days.
Tell me about playing against Scottish teams and the Scottish players. Many of them you'll be talking with this evening. You mentioned Andy Irvine, of course, who had retired just a little bit before you were coming through at international level. But what were they like as an opposition, individually and collectively?
Oh, we always say, some of our hardest games were against the Scots, and I look back to even that '87 World Cup, and although we seemed to sort of just roll through and win by a lot, our hardest game in that World Cup was our quarter-final against Scotland, without question. And they're very similar to us. They're very physical, very dedicated, and they don't go away. But I've got some of my greatest mates. One of my great mates is here tonight, Gavin Hastings, who we played with in New Zealand, and he came to our club, and so
you were almost a Watsonians player, I believe.
Well, yeah, maybe there was talk of that, but Gavin and I, we played each other, and the University Club in Auckland, we won the Gallagher Shield, which is our big trophy in the Auckland competition. 93 Lions, he was the captain, I was the captain. So we have a lot of history, and we're good mates, and it's lovely to see him here tonight, along with a few other internationals that we played against.
Now I can think of, I think, a 3-point game against New Zealand in 1990 when Scotland were touring New Zealand.
Yeah. But Gavin still talks about that.
But I can well imagine. But no victory. So what? Are you going to share any secrets with us? Where have we gone wrong? What is the secret?
I think you've seen a team like Ireland probably is a good example of what Scotland. You've got to believe you can beat the All Blacks, and if you start with that, you're a good chance of beating the All Blacks. And unfortunately, at the moment, Scotland haven't done that. It's not an easy thing to do, as we've seen. Ireland found the other side of it. They beat us, and then at the big game they lost. And so we don't go away lightly. We're not we don't want to be involved in a team that loses to a nation for the first time. And we've got a lot of history. So Scotland are a formidable team. And they were just unfortunate. They were in a very difficult pool, and if they'd been in another pool, if they'd been in the England pool or on that side of the draw, it may have been a different story.
Now, I'm just thinking of you and Colin Dean's conversation.
When I played against Colin Deans in '87 at the World Cup, I was like, my God, he's one of my childhood heroes also, because he was 10 years older than me, I'd imagine. So that was like, wow. I played against, club rugby, I played against Andy Dalton. And that was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm playing against Andy Dalton, that imposter syndrome again. And then I come up against the Bear Milne, who's here tonight. Like, once again, I'm a kid in a candy shop, being here tonight, having Bear Milne here. That great front row they had in '87 was, phenomenal.
Downtown, when you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help forget all your troubles, just forget all your cares and go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Don't wait a minute more. Downtown, everything's waiting for you. Downtown, where all the lights are bright. Downtown, waiting for you tonight. Downtown, you're gonna be alright now. Get on downtown. Downtown, where all the lights are bright. Downtown, waiting for you tonight.
Oh, you can't beat a bit of Dolly, and the sun comes out. It's that's the effect that she has on us here at Riverside Park. 2:34 is the time. You're listening to Rugby Radio. Latest scores up and down the country. Premiership, it's Curry 7, Musselburgh 3. Edinburgh Accies against Heriots Blues. I think we can actually go there and talk to Sam Matthews.
28 minutes played and the score currently sits Edinburgh Accies 5, Heriots 12. A try just scored by Heriots number 15 Callum Ram sees the home side get on the board for the first time today. 2 tries from the visitors though, one from Paul Christie and one from Cameron Major, sees them still out by a 7-point lead. All points are going to be vital today here as this day just continues to get worse and worse in terms of weather, and it's only going to get colder and darker. Score currently Edinburgh Accies 5, Heriots 12.
Oh dear, doesn't sound very happy, Sam Matthews. Lovely and sunny here and dry. It's lovely, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. We'll send some up to Edinburgh for you. Anyway, Mar 14 now, Glasgow Hawks 0 in the West Coast Derby. National 1, it's Dundee 3, Ayr 21.
This is Rugby Radio.
Rugby Radio.
Borders College is your local community college with qualifications recognised and valued by employers. To find out more, visit borderscollege.ac.uk today. Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Your pet deserves the best, and that's why your pet deserves the care and treatment offered by Border Vets. We focus on delivering the very best care to each and every one of our patients and clients. We get to know you and your pet and offer treatments tailored to every animal's individual needs, from our conveniently located surgeries in Galashiels, Selkirk and Earlston. Ask about our Pet Health Club for your cat or dog, giving you peace of mind by spreading the cost of vaccinations, regular checks and more. From dental care to travelling abroad and the whole range of veterinary services, bordervets.co.uk is where you'll find everything you need to know. Border Vets, where your pets are part of our family.
This is Rugby Radio, brought to you by Borders College.
Yeah.
Your Honor, please, gotta believe what I say. What I will tell happened just the other day. I must confess, 'cause I've had about enough. I need your help, gotta make this here thing stop.
Baby, I swear I'll tell the truth about all the things we used to do. And if you thought you had me fooled, I'm telling you now, objection overruled. Here we go, oh baby.
One for the money and the free rides, it's two for the lie that you deny. All rise, all rise, all rise.
truth about all the things you used to do. And if you thought you had me fooled, I'm telling you, objection overruled. Oh baby, one for the money and the free rides, it's two for the lie that you denied. Alright, three for the calls you've been making, it's four on the times you've been faking. Alright,
So step back, cause you don't know this cat. I know deep down that you don't want me to react. I lay low, leaving all my options open. The decision of the jury has not been spoken. Step in my house, you find that your stuff is gone. But in reality, to whom does the stuff belong? I bring you into court to preach my order, and you know that you overstepped the border.
one for the money and the free rides, it's two for the lie that you denied. Alright, three for the calls you've been making, it's four all the times you've been faking. Alright, one for the money and the free rides, it's two for the lie that you denied. Alright, what you done? Alright, three for the calls you've been making, it's four all the times you've been faking. Alright, what you done? Alright, when you're gone. One for the money and the free rides, it's two for the lie that you denied. Alright, three for the calls you've been making, it's four all the times you've been faking.
Music from Blue on Rugby Radio. Latest scores: Curry 14, Musselburgh 3, Edinburgh Accies 5, Heriots Blues 17 now, Mar 21, Glasgow Hawks 0. In National 1 it's Dundee 3. Let's have a preview of Kelso against Hawick, and joining us from Poynter Park is David Ferguson.
Kelso were thumped 61-7 away to Hawick early in the season, which was viewed as a signal of the difference between the top of National League 1 and top of the Premiership. This game, Kelso hope, might show the difference the home team have made, with now 11 games under their belts in the top flight. A win for Kelso would take them into the running for playoff places with 6 games remaining, while a win for the visitors, who have just one loss to their name this season, which was away to Mar the week before they took out their frustrations on Kelso and Mansfield Park, would further cement their claims to back-to-back titles. Kelso have a few injuries, with back row Cammy Brown out this morning with illness, and Hamish Tweedy, Archie Cowens, Alan Frame and Angus McGregor all out injured. But there is good news today, with player coach Bruce McNeil passing a late fitness test to return to the side from injury. James Thompson returns to their bench after scoring 2 tries for the second 15 against Melrose, and James Glendinning covers hooker. Gareth Welsh comes in at scrum half for Hawick, and with Fraser Rennick out with a broken thumb, Ross Graham starts at hooker with Russell Anderson on the bench this week. Hawick also introduced Kiwi back row Dan Brooker and youngster Eli Hamilton to the bench. Back row Stuart Graham makes his 200th appearance for the first 15 this afternoon, and full-back Kirk Ford his 100th on a weekend where the club, of course, is celebrating its 150th anniversary. We certainly have an intriguing border derby in store here at Poynter Park this afternoon.
David Ferguson reporting from Poynter Park. Well, it's beginning to cloud over here at Riverside Park, but it's still been dry for the last hour, but very soggy underneath. We'll be joining our commentary team very, very shortly. That's Dale Clancy and Robin Purdy. Some latest scores: it's now 21-3 to Curry against Musselburgh. That's been played at Millennium Park. Heriots Blues winning at Edinburgh Accies 17 points to 5 now. Mar 21, Glasgow Hawks 0. 3 tries for Mar, all converted. International 1, it's Dundee 3, Ayr 21, Glasgow Accies 7, Watsonians 3. In fact, I think Ayr have just got the bonus point try. They have indeed. 26 points to 3 to Ayr at Dundee, which will do them no harm at all as they look to stay unbeaten this afternoon. Into Division 2, a Gregor Dodd try for Falkirk makes it Aberdeen Grammar 3, Falkirk 17, and Berwick, remember, without a win so far, just a draw and some bonus points, but today they're welcoming Stirling County to Scremerston. It's currently Berwick 28, Stirling County 10, so at least they know they're going to get at least 1 point today, which will help their cause, particularly if Aberdeen Grammar's scoreline stays as it is at the moment. Alan Glenn's 19, Hamilton 17. Bit of a comeback from Hamilton, doing pretty well. They've scored 2 tries. That's the bottom club, of course, still without a win this season. Alan Glenn's winning that. It's 3-3 at Bladnoch Park. Newton Stewart 3, Lasswade 3. And a latest from East League 1, it's Langham 5, Forester 7, and East League 2, Hoyk Lundin 11, Duns 0. Those are latest scores. Well, coming up very shortly, of course, we'll have the big preview of this game here, Jedforest against Selkirk.
When are you gonna come down? When are you going to land? I should have stayed on the phone. I should have listened to my own mind. You know you can't hold me forever. I didn't sign up with you. I'm not a present for your friends to open. This boy's too young to be singing the blues. So goodbye, yellow brick road, where the dogs of society howl. You can't plant me in your penthouse. I'm going back to my plow, back to the howling old out in the woods, hunting a hornetback toad. Oh, I found the other side of my future lies beyond the yellow brick What do you think you'll do then? I bet they shoot down the plane. It'll take you a couple of Vodka tonics to set you on your feet again. Maybe you'll get a replacement. There's plenty like me to be found. Mongrels who ain't got a penny, sniffing for tidbits like you. On the So goodbye, yellow brick road, where the dogs of society howl. You can't plant me in your penthouse. I'm going back to my plow, back to the howling old out in the woods, hunting the hornetback toad. Oh, I found the other side of my future lies beyond the yellow brick
Music from Elton John. 2:48 is the time. Later on this afternoon, 3 o'clock, of course, Melrose are at home to Biggar. Let's find out the words of Ian Chisholm.
It's quite unique for us now because we've got some selection issues to consider. We're only allowed to name 3 players in our matchday squad who've been named in a Super 6 squad in the last season, and 5 doesn't go into 3, so there are boys that need to rotate out the squad and into the second 15 this weekend, which doesn't really make sense, but look, that's how it is. Kieran Clark was the player that missed out last week, so he'll come into the squad, and then from there it's just about making a decision based on who and what is best for the team and is best for this particular game. But look, we're excited about the challenge. We're excited to be back at home. And look, we had a pretty heavy night on Tuesday, and we'll strip it right back on Thursday. But the boys are feeling really good and feeling really confident. And while we are missing a few regulars, both the captain and vice captain, Struan Hutchison and Angus Runciman, are missing this weekend. We've got boys that are more than capable of stepping up, especially young boys who, you know, they're only 18, 19, 20 years old, but they've got belief in in what we're trying to do. They've bought in, they work really hard. So look, we're excited to see these guys get in the park and put themselves about and even try and keep these boys out of the squad when they do come back.
Ian Chisholm, head coach of Melrose. It's half-time at Rayburn Place. Edinburgh Accies against Heriots Blues. Here's Sam Matthews.
Half-time at Rayburn Place, and it is a half that the visitors will be most proud of. 3 tries to 1. Paul Christie, Cameron Major and Malky Keogh going over for Heriots in that first half. Accies did respond and managed to get 5 points on the board though. Callum Ram, the fullback, he went over just shy of the 30-minute mark. Kicking has been futile with 1 from 4 between both teams going through the post this afternoon. But as it looks, Heriots staying out on the pitch, looking to make sure they continue their form in the second half, whereas the home side Accies have gone back into the sheds, and I imagine there will be a very quick debrief and a quick analysis of how they rectify it in the second 40 minutes. Score currently, Accies 5, Heriots 17.
Currie 21, Musselburgh 3 is our latest score from Millennium Park, and Mar 26, Glasgow Hawks 0 is a half-time scoreline at the moment. Dundee 3, Ayr 26, Ayr with the try bonus point in the bag. Glasgow Accies 7, Watsonians coming back now. It's Watsonians 10, they've just scored a converted try, so they take the lead 10-7 against the high-scoring Glasgow Accies. Into Division 2, Aberdeen 10, Falkirk 17, a try back for Aberdeen Grammar at Rubislaw. It's half-time at Scremerston. Berwick 28, Stirling County 10, Newton Stewart 3, Lasswade 3 is a half-time scoreline. And in Division 3, it's Allen Glens 19, Hamilton 17. And that result from earlier on, the 12 o'clock kickoff, Howe of Fife against Orkney. Howe of Fife 19, Orkney 24. Orkney retaining their unbeaten record for this season. Well, Gala are taking on GHK at Netherdale today, and we can hear now from Director of Rugby at Gala, it's Ewan Swinton.
GHK deservedly beat us through in Glasgow. We were beaten in the scrum, we were beaten in the loose, we were beaten to an awful lot of things. Now we're going to take that to heart and really challenge them this weekend. They've had their tough times recently, and we certainly intend to ensure that run continues. The Gala squad is strengthening, so many people are coming through and staking their claim when they get a chance, and I think the coaches can fairly claim to being in a position to actually pick a team specifically for the opposition that we're going to play against. So we'll go after them. We'll play the game that's been emerging from the team, strong in the forwards, really determined, really bloody minded for want of a better term, physically challenging the opposition and running the ball wide at every opportunity. So it should be good to watch. I hope that we get a good crowd along on Saturday. Very confident that we can give GHK a solid, hard game, respectful of an opponent that's previously beaten us, but very upbeat about what we have to come in the rest of the season. I can't see any reason why we can't beat any team in our league, and even when it comes to the Border League.
Ewan Swinton, the Director of Rugby at Gala Rugby Club there, and Gala looking for 4 on the bounce if they manage to get past GHK today. Peebles against Stuart's Melville, and we've got the thoughts of both coaches now, starting with Graham Patterson.
We know that we need to put in a very solid performance. Kenny Clyde and Rowan McKeever are away back offshore for their jobs, so we'll be missing them, but we'll be replacing them with players coming back. We've got a number of players sort of in the mix now for the selection. Murdo Anderson, the club captain, is hopefully back. He'll get assessed on Thursday with regards to his sort of hand injury that he has, so hopefully he's passed and ready to go back into that squad as well. Potential other couple of boys coming into it is young Colt and Cal McRobert, and also Scotty Lawson, who's back as well. So a few boys to come back in, which will be good to replace those boys that are not. And Willie Aitken will be back as well, which will add a tremendous amount of experience and scrumming prowess to our front row options, which are pretty good at the moment. But Touchwood, we don't have to go down too far into the resources to replace those, which we haven't so far this season. So we're looking forward to keeping expanding our game and developing our game. The backs are certainly, by their own admission, didn't get the widest of channels exploited on Saturday, so we might look to do that again this Saturday, try and move that ball to the edge a bit more. But the age-old core functions of scrum, line-out, phase play will come back into it for the forwards and producing that platform that we look to exert pressure on. The good thing we've got is now we've got a pretty solid kicking game which will stand us in good stead when we're playing against Stumel on Saturday, and hopefully we can maintain our good form that we've shown in the last few games and come away with the victory.
Alex Haggart from Stumel, let's find out what he has to say.
This second part of the season is a chance for us to maybe show to other clubs what we're all about. I think that was something that really frustrated the lads, was that you get an 80-minute snapshot to show other people what your team is like. And I think all too often in the first round of games, we didn't show other clubs and other oppositions what our strengths were and how good at rugby we actually can be. So I think from our perspective, and I know the boys are desperate to do this, I think they just want to go out and I think they want to show people that there is a rugby team in there. We're well aware of the challenge, like going down to the Gites, playing under lights at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. It is quite a tough place to go and play rugby. They're flying high. I think they've got a really good young standoff playing for them as well. So, we're well aware of how good they are and what their ambition probably is this year. So I think for us it's just about going down and fronting up front, like stopping their maul game, maybe not giving away the amount of penalties that we did, which ultimately at Inverleith led them to using their maul game as much as they did, and try and negate their threats while trying to promote our strengths as much as possible. So that's the plan. Whether or not we're able to action it on Saturday is a completely different thing, but that's the idea.
Not sure if he was turning left or right there, but that's Alex Haggart in his car heading for Peebles, and Peebles against Stumel kicks off at 3 o'clock today. Quick latest scores that we have for you before we hand over and concentrate on the big game here at Riverside Park. Curry 21, Musselburgh 3 is the latest score. Embrackis 5, Heriots Blues 17, Mar 26, Glasgow Hawks 0 at half time there. National 1, Dundee 3, Ayr 26 with a bonus point in the bag. Glasgow Accies 7, Watsonians 10. In Division 2, Aberdeen 10, Falkirk 24, they have the bonus point now. Berwick 28, Stirling County 10 is half time. Newton Stewart 3, Lasswade 3, a latest score. They've just started the second half. Allen Glens 19, Hamilton 17, and the scoreline from earlier, Howe Fife 19, Orkney 24. Okay, it's time to concentrate on the big match today. We're a few minutes away from kick-off at Riverside Park. Premiership derby between Jedforest and Selkirk. We're going to hear from summariser Robin Purdy shortly, but it's a very good afternoon and welcome back to the Rugby Radio commentary box for Dale Clancy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stuart. It's certainly an interesting encounter here. It's damp and dreek at Riverside, and it's perhaps a reflection of the feeling in camp in this Jed squad after going 11 games on the bounce in the Premiership so far this season and yet to taste victory. But the sun has been trying to shine through in between the clouds, and that might be a good omen for this home side as they look to try and claw back a big deficit to the side who sit above them in the table, and that team are the visitors here this afternoon in Selkirk. So the team for Jedforest this afternoon, they welcome back Mason Cullen from Boroughmuir Bears, who's been playing in the Super Series. He starts at fullback with Gregor Young and Robbie Shearer-Gibb on the wings. Owen Cranston and Rory Marshall are the centre partnership, with Lewis Elder a late replacement for Mark Glenn at scrum half, and he's going to partner Dom Buckley, who is the fly half this afternoon. In the front row, Jamie Ferguson, Harvey Keith and Harry Meadows will pack down. They'll be accompanied with Clark Skeldon, the captain, and Dan Wardrop, the only replacement to the side, to this afternoon's fixture from last weekend. And then Elliot Lauder, Blake Roth and Ben Fotheringham make up the back row. The visitors, they had a confidence-boosting win against Glasgow Hawks with a last-minute try, snatching victory at Philip Hawke last weekend. And they'll go into this game looking to try and condemn Jed to the realisation of life in National 1 next season. You would say a victory for the Philip Hawke side would mean that Jed have a mountain to climb for the rest of the campaign. Their squad is relatively consistent, and it has been replenished by some players coming in as well from the Super Series Championship, which is now almost concluded. So they're going to start with Callum Anderson, the last-minute try scorer last weekend at fullback. Finlay Whelans and Josh Welsh are on the wings, with Ross Nixon and Ben Pickles in the centres. Hugo Alderson is the scrum half, and Aaron McComb has recovered from a knock last weekend to start at fly half. Petty, Bett and Shavajak are in the front row, with Turnbull and Cochrane in the middle row, and in a back row is made up of Scott McClyman starting at number 7, with Kieran Westlake from the Boroughmuir Bears, the new Celtic Rugby DO, also partnering him in the back row alongside Andrew McComb. There's a return for Munro Job on the bench as well for the Sooters. Alongside me this afternoon is Robin Purdy. And this is a game on paper you think it's pretty easy to call, but Jedforest at home in tricky conditions, it's perhaps a little bit more complicated than what it will seem.
Good afternoon, Dale. Yes, it's desperation stakes for Jed. It's the last chance saloon and all. Reality, and even a win here today might not be enough. But yeah, as I've said before, Jed have got 4 winnable looking home games, and this is the first of them. And as you mentioned, Selkirk are the team directly above them in the table. So if they're going to claw their way back into the possibility of survival, then it needs to start today. 17 points separate these sides in the league. Selkirk have won 3 times. They've beaten Jed already this season. It was a high-scoring game in September. They finished 65 points to 35, and I think my neck is still trying to recover from covering that game back in September, looking at the try line each side. But this is probably going to be a slightly different game and a slightly different makeup, maybe a bit more attritional. Possibly, but I think Jed at least have to go for tries right from the get-go, I would suggest. I was on the field before, it's very, very wet underfoot. It looks decent to the naked eye, it is wet, but yeah, Jed are just going to have to throw caution to the wind and go for it. Jed are going to be playing out of the town in their red and blue lettered tops, with the full navy and white of the Sooters going into the town, and it's a kick-off from Dom Buckley. He's been gathered by Scott McClyman, who burrows his head down quickly and hares away from the 22. Just gets caught just shy of the 10-metre line by Robbie Shearer-Gibb, so Alderson will get a chance to just pop the ball into the sky, and Mason Cullen's got his first chance to foray back into the defensive line. He's been well met initially, just short of the halfway line, and the ball's been distributed there by Lewis Elder, trying to get a bit of width on this play with his blue skull cap on. Looks to go against the grain now. Manages to find an on-rushing Elliot Lauder. 2 tries in the previous defeat. There's only 2 tries in this campaign so far this season. And now a foray for Harry Meadows. He's been well dealt with as well, and the forwards very attritional in this early stages of the game, but the high challenge coming in there from the forwards. I think a mixture of Bett and Westlake there, just riding a little bit high.
No attempt to go low, up above sternum.
And certainly the referee signalling there was absolutely no attempt to try and dip in the challenge, so it gives Buckley a chance to kick downfield. He's made his touch, and it's been a positive start for Jedforest. Yeah, I would say so, Dale. They regurgitated possession a few times there. They looked comfortable enough, and the penalty, that is a penalty, that type of tackle nowadays. And yeah, they're going to have an attacking line out just inside the 22. Pop into the line out for Harvey Keith. Just inside the 22, sizing up his targets as both teams opt for the full line. It's been Blake Roth as the target. He's been brought down safely to ground. The Jed players congregate on that drive and maul. It's crabbing towards the touchline, but it's filtered its way through that maul, and it's now in the hands of Dom Buckley, who's got Rory Marshall on rushing, who's been clattered by Andrew McComb, who managed to get a shoulder into the sternum there and make a really good challenge. Jedforest peppering the 22-metre line. Do get the penalty for an infringement there. Westlake again in the thick of the action, and Jedforest look to try and go quickly, and it's Ben Fotheringham who's charging forward, takes a quick tap, looks to try and manipulate this defence, and now the ball just filtered through the hands. Mason Cullen gathers the bobbling ball, but Ben Pickles isn't able to bring him down. He then uses a bit of evasive footwork to make his way into the 22 now. Elder, he distributes. It's good work there from Wardrop. Bring some players into the action. One of them is Dom Buckley, who's just tucked it under the shoulder and just drives forward. Cranston stabs it forward. Aaron McComb is sweeping up in behind. He distributes back in field to Callum Anderson, who left-footed kick clears his lines, and it's a great kick. Has been watched here by Gregor Young, expertly catched just on the halfway line as well. A man who loves counter-attacking rugby just shrugs off the first challenge from Callum Anderson, who did well to make ground to make that challenge. And Gregor Young's made his way towards the 10-metre line. Now Marshall offloading out of the tackle. He does find Dan Wardrop, who's on the shoulder. Now Lewis Elders in support. He's been wrapped up by Luke Petty. Ball presented back expertly there by the scrum half as well. Now Captain Clark Skeldon is clattered by Shafarjak. The ball just bobbles out of that breakdown there, and the players from Jedforest are running with a lot of intent onto the ball, looking to win that physical battle up front. Buckley just manages to gather the ball and then throws the dummy. Goes into Ross Nixon, a couple of familiar foes in border rugby. The ball making its way forward. Again, just runs aground, and Jedforest quite happy to play. Jedforest happy to play that attritional style of rugby. The referee just signalling that Scott McComb was the player who was infringing there. So it's going to be another penalty to Jedforest. And again, it's been slightly one-way traffic in terms of attacking ability so far.
Yeah, it has. Jed have had all the possession, all the territory, and Selkirk have conceded 3 penalties into the bargain. I think if there was any doubt about Jed's intent in this one, it was when the imminently kickable 3-pointer on the back of the second penalty was given up in favour of Ben Fotheringham tapping and going. So Jed, they know they need tries.
Do you well, I might get your thoughts on that after this passage of play, but it's potentially one of those calls this early on in the game. We've played 4 minutes. You know, you need to get points on the board. That almost opens opportunity in the field.
Yeah. I think
went short of the line out. We'll get Robin Purdy's thoughts in just a second. The ball getting back into the field of play pretty quickly, and hold on, an orthodox line out there from Jedforest, but it works well. The carry forward from the captain Clark Skeldon makes a couple of yards there, and the forwards just looking to keep it tight. Very robust in the forwards, and they've littered a bench full of them as well. The likes of Stenhouse, Bates, Law and Howe on the bench. Elder distributes to Buckley, who's straddling the 22-metre line. Looks to find Cranston running that short line just onto the outside shoulder, but it's been defended well. And trying to get the ball away from the breakdown. It's a cough up of possession from Elder. And back to the point we were talking about, obviously not opting to go for that penalty. There was a chance there, 3 points to 0. That sometimes opens up position in the field later on.
Yeah, it does, Dale, and normally there's no bigger advocate for take your points than me, but Jed, 4 points from this today is just not good. It's just not enough for Jed, and you know they need to get 5 at all costs, and they need to get 5 in a few other games as well.
Yeah, it's been a difficult campaign for Jedforest so far this season. They've found themselves rooted to the bottom of the table, yet to win, and it's also difficult to see where that win is going to come with the changes in the squad. Not a lot of continuity for this home side, but a hell of a lot of endeavour as the scrum on the 22 packs down. Centre field inside the Selkirk half has been put in by Hugo Alderson, but the front rows get introduced to the Riverside turf pretty quickly. Shafarjak rises up with a nice patch of mud on his forehead as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's very, very wet underfoot out there, and scrumming is going to be a difficult task, I would imagine.
I certainly don't envy that task as the front rows look to get this is the first real scrum.
You just wonder if the referee will display any leeway given the saturated underfoot conditions.
You would imagine there'd have to be a little bit of understanding from the match official Gordy Reid this afternoon. It's going to be difficult underfoot for these set pieces to go to fruition, but Jedforest have given a good account of themselves at this one. They're almost cancelling each other out, but it drives forward, and Selkirk managed to manipulate the penalty from that scrum set piece. And a few slaps in the back from the new Selkirk DO. Kieran Westlake in the back row applauding the effort of the rest of the forwards. And it's the first penalty of the afternoon for Selkirk here, but it was one that they had to work incredibly hard for.
It was a real old battle in there in the front rows, wasn't it? And what an experienced front row Selkirk have. The two Promsvarzik, Petty, and of course Bet in the middle of him. He's up and over 200 games now for the Suitors. So yeah, that potentially is an area that Selkirk will be looking to exploit.
359 appearances, if my People's High School maths teacher did me any favours. It's certainly an experienced front row for Selkirk, and from the line out they throw it in, they get it down to ground quickly, and they're herring their way upfield from that driving maul over the halfway line. Now finds Ross Nixon in midfield as the ball is fed into the wider channels. And about 15 metres in from touch as Andrew McComb just works his way round the corner. He's clattered as well by Fotheringham in defence, but rides the challenge well. Now McComb spots a little gap, floats the ball to Josh Welsh, and he's got some space to run into. He looks to chip the ball over Mason Cullen, but the bobbling ball bouncing infield has been well watched by the fullback returning to Riverside. And he's held on the ground, looks to pop up, and I think the referee is signalling there that the penalty is going to go the way of Selkirk. And it's been first 5 minutes or so has been all Jedforest, and all of a sudden they win a scrum penalty. They have a good attacking line out. They win the next penalty, and they're about 7 metres shy of the Jed line.
Yeah, and it's going to be a line out that they're going to have to defend, and it's almost I'm guessing a microcosm of Jed's season. You know, a lot of huff, a lot of puff, but as you mentioned, they look up from a scrum and they've conceded 60-70 metres.
Throw into the line out here. Bet sizes up his targets. He finds Andrew McComb at the front. The ball has been brought down, and then they're looking to try and make some inroads. They start crabbing forward slightly, and it's now making good head of steam. It's making its way towards the line. The referee having a little conversation with his assistant referee Ian Herd, and he signals that the try has been scored. It did look like James Bett had risen up there, but there's a whole host of Selkirk players who could have potentially got that try. It was a messy maul in the end, but it was effective, and twice we've seen Selkirk bring that ball down from the line out, get that maul going, and they're making good inroads from that passage of play.
Absolutely, it's just so hard to defend against nowadays as well. It's almost a try every single time without fail, and that's exactly what happened there. And yeah, that's a hammer blow for Jed with the possession, the territory, the phases that they've had, and now they find themselves 5 points adrift.
9 minutes gone, and I think James Bett perhaps was the player who got that try, as confirmed by Josh Welsh. So thank you very much, Josh, for helping us confirm who the try scorer was. And it is a touchline conversion, which has just not managed to make it. I think Hugo Alderson is also a bit bemused that that's not managed to make it over the crossbar. He had accuracy, but perhaps not the distance, and you don't want to be giving that young man some opportunities to kick at the posts.
No, I've heard good things about him since he's arrived at Selkirk, and goal kicking, scrum half, that looked a decent effort, but it must have fell just short.
First try to Selkirk, 5 points to 0. They lead at Riverside Park, and then it's been kicked off back into the hands of Callum Anderson, a player who pulled the strings at the reverse fixture in September from the 15 position, orchestrating proceedings. Just takes play directly in front of us in the halfway line in the wee stand at Riverside Park. I don't know what, you're a local, aren't you?
That's exactly as it is affectionately known here.
Oh, brilliant.
The wee stand, yeah.
The wee stand, it was almost as if I already had that local knowledge, but it was a guess more than anything else. Dwarfed by the big stand over on the far side, but there's going to be a throw into the line out. Jedforest on the halfway line. It's been lofted, and it's been lost as well by Jed because the big paw of Andrew McComb got on the road. So Selkirk, they clear their lines from the 22 and they then get possession. It's now in the hands of Scott McClymondt, burrowing, a bit of squeeze ball as well between the knees. Ross Nixon linking up well with McComb. He's got Callum Anderson out behind him as well, and he just scoops that ball over the head of Mason Cullen. And in this sticky ground, that might just be a fortunate kick for Callum Anderson, and Mason Cullen's just want to play a bit of rugby because he's looking to steam out of his own try line, but he's been scragged and the ball has just run free, and now that loose ball is bobbling about, but the referee is going to bring it back. And that was certainly adventurous from Mason Cullen, but defence from Selkirk forcing the error.
Yeah, I was going to mention before the kick by Callum Anderson from his own half. He's got that massive left boot that we're all aware of. I did think he might fancy a 50-22 there, particularly in these skiddy conditions, and it's almost worked out as well for him. Given the error from Colin, it's going to be a Selkirk scrum as opposed to a Selkirk line out deep inside the Jed 22.
Just as the scrum is starting to form, the sun is starting to shine over Riverside Park, and the autumnal colours here in Jed will start to glow a little bit brighter than they have been for the previous 12 minutes of this game. Hugo Alderson pops the ball into the scrum, and again it's a strong effort from this visit inside, and they're starting to crab their way towards that line. It's making its way, the scrum is starting to splinter, but it's been brilliantly controlled by Andrew McComb at the back of that scrum, and he just dives his way over the whitewash, and the Selkirk number 8 doubles the lead for the Suitors, and they lead after 12 and a half minutes, they now lead 10 points to 0.
They do indeed, and they've been hugely efficient with what possession that they've had. That was a really, really strong effort from the forwards, and that lays down a bit of a marker for the rest of the game as far as the Jed forwards are concerned as well. Not only the 5 points that might become 7, it's the message it sends as well.
You look at the two forward packs though, and even for the build up to that try, a lot of it is the fact that Selkirk's forwards have been more accurate. They won the line out directly in front of us. They were then able to squeeze in the scrum. And Hugo Alderson does manage to split the kindling this time to get the 2 points, and he'll be a little bit happier this time, the young scrum half, because on 13 minutes now it is 12 points to 0 to Selkirk. And just a reminder of the gulf between these two sides in the league. 17 points separating both of them, 11 games gone. Selkirk have won 3, Jed yet to win in this campaign, and a 5-point victory would all but condemn Jedforest to life in National 1 next year, albeit there's a few games still to go, and it's still mathematically possible that they can survive, but it would look unlikely if this game continues in this vein.
I would say so, yeah. And another thing as well, I talked about Jed need 5 points from this, but they also need to stop Selkirk from getting anything, and that's Selkirk now halfway to a try bonus point already, and we're 13 minutes in. Yeah, I totally agree. It's one of those vital games where you have to try and make sure that you limit your opportunities for the opposition. You can see a few Selkirk spectators just in front of the line out, which has been successfully won there by Selkirk yet again. And they've made their way out of the 22. The forwards working really hard as Westlake gets a chance to run forward. He's been well shackled around the fringes there. And it was, on that occasion, it was Elliot Lauder who made the challenge, but the penalty is going to go the way of Selkirk. And Jedforest infringing, asking Ben Fotheringham, or the referee Gordy Reid, telling Ben Fotheringham what he was doing wrong there at that passage of play. So it gives a chance for Callum Anderson to kick clear, and that huge lumpy left boot of his manages to take play just to the other side of the stand here at Riverside Park, just encroaching that 10-metre line inside the Jed half. And Selkirk look pretty comfortable and pretty steady so far, Robin, don't they? They absolutely do, Dale, you're right. And mentioned Anderson there, that was a tremendous clearance down the touchline, and almost for the rest of this game now with a 12-point lead in the skinny, the sort of slippy underfoot conditions, all they need Selkirk now is for him just to leather the skin off it just about every time they have it. Yeah, he's a really good kicking option in the backfield. Selkirk have got quite a lot of kicking options in their team. Callum Anderson, one of them. Callum Anderson is a player that I rate very highly, and I think with good players round about him, I think he could really flourish. He's got great footballing ability from his time when he was younger. A very promising footballer. Now finds himself playing with a slightly odder shaped ball than his previous career, but from the line out it was lost initially by Selkirk, and now the line out has been successfully gathered by Jedforest but knocked on in the maul, and it means that Selkirk again get possession, but they also get possession in what would be a pretty secure passage of play here, because they'll get the scrum put in, and you would argue that this ball's going to go in and it's going to probably come back on the Selkirk side. Yeah, and it's just that lack of accuracy from Jed. They'd actually done really well at the line out. They'd got up, and Blake Roth was like a salmon there. He really did rise up into the air and take it in, but then it was just guddled at the last minute before the scrum half had a chance to get their hands on it. And yet, as you say now, Selkirk scrum. He was up like a salmon, but it was almost like they were passing a salmon back. It was a slippy ball in that passage of play there, because they were trying to bring the ball down and get it through that maul, and it just squirmed out the hands. And the referee is just having a little conversation with the respective front rows. A little reminder that in the front row for Jedforest, Ferguson, Keith and Meadows against Petty, Bett and Shavajak, the latter of which has got the upper hand at the moment in that battle up front. Another scrum for Selkirk. Alderson puts in. It's a steady platform yet again. He loiters behind McComb, just patting him on the upper thigh as it drives forward. He's desperate on that ball, and eventually it's been distributed by McComb. The ball bobbling about, it then gets into the hands of Pickles, who puts the fend in on Rory Marshall, who's trying to scamper back. He gets a second bite because he's been supported by Shearer Gibb, and now the counter ruck is coming on from Jedforest inside their own 22, but Finlay Whelans acts as scrum half. Nixon just distributes the ball and tips it on to Scott McClyman. The Selkirk players just
catapult themselves into that breakdown, and now peeling off the side. McComb is clattered but gives it to Nixon, and Anderson is then wrapping round in support. He runs into Gregor Young. He's still rising high, but they're 7-8 metres shy of that Jedforest try line now, with another penalty coming. Another penalty coming the way of the visitors, and the referee signalled it was a high challenge. And Clark Skeldon was the player guilty of infringing. And you would think here this is going to be a pop into the corner and try and set up the driving maul, because Selkirk are, when they're attacking, they're getting in behind Jedforest and they're causing them a lot of problems, which means they can get the opportunities in field position like this.
Yeah, even then, the run, the half break by Pickles, there was no line speed by Jed whatsoever. It was just all too easy for the men from Philip Haw, and you would not back against the third try of the afternoon here from this resulting 5 metre line out.
Another line out. Bet, ball above his head, finds Andrew McComb. It's been brought down, so Bet is packed down and well protected in that driving maul. It's starting to get ahead of steam now. It's going to just collapse just short. The referee having a good look in that breakdown. He's got his head burrowed in there, as does Hugo Alderson, because you can see the ball appear now as the bodies just roll out of the way. Shafarjak goes to the left-hand side, thinks he spots a space, but has to distribute the ball early to the back of that ruck. Now Bet burrows underneath the players that were looking to try and stop him, making a beeline towards that line. Great tip-off off the floor from Andrew McComb. The ball now bobbling about and ricocheting off all the legs and the bodies there as Jedforest look to pack down and defend robustly. They're doing a great job so far as they get the personnel into position. Aggressive in the challenge. Shafarjak almost caught in his back here, almost rolling as well. The referee's got a keen eye on that as Turnbull tips the ball onto Bet yet again. Third passage of carrying for him. Westlake, he's asking for players to wrap round Alderson. Looks to get the ball from in between his legs, and now it's McComb. He has found Pickles. Pickles, a little kick of the heels, looks to go out and then back in. Offload out the back door to Finlay Whelans, and he has got over for what is a brilliant try. He scored twice in the victory at Philip Hawke, and now he's got one at Riverside as well. But that was brilliantly worked from Selkirk. Attritional in the forwards, and then expansive, and what a bit of skill there from Ben Pickles.
It was a beautiful little pop out the back door, and it was a real poacher's finish from Finlay Whelans. As you mentioned, he's got tries to his name already against Jed, and he helped himself to another there. But yeah, it was a real team try, if you like. The hard yards were done by the forwards in the face of what was quite decent defence by Jed, but yeah, had to come.
We can quickly go to Rayburn Place. Sam Matthews.
As the game gets back underway here at Rayburn Place, the visitors Heriots have secured the bonus point try through their hooker Rory Jackson. Line out drive and maul, one of the staples of the Premiership this season, has resulted in that magical fourth try for the visitors. Score currently sits Accies 5, Heriots 24.
Conversion just been set up here. It's currently Selkirk 17, Jedforest 0. The home side Jedforest have just had another 2 points added to that deficit that they face. Alderson getting his second conversion of the afternoon. 20 minutes gone here at Riverside Park. Jedforest 0, Selkirk 19. And I believe I heard Stuart Cameron say Selkirk were slow starters.
Yeah, I do believe it was mentioned, but not a bit of it today. They've been very, very impressive so far this afternoon, I have to say.
Buckley gets play back underway. He just hooks it downfield, and it's gathered and controlled by Aaron McComb in the 22. It's an acute angle, but he gets a good distance on that as well, and that's a pretty good exit from the 22, just up towards his own 10 metre line inside his own half. There'll be a throw into the line out for Jedforest, but again, as easy as you like from the restart. Selkirk just able to get the pressure off.
Yeah, all too easy. Decent strike, as you say, buys them a bit of territory. It's ex-players' day here today at Riverside. I can see the likes of Callum Brown and Brian Law and Andy Purvis on that far side, and my word, what Jed could do with the likes of them in this predicament.
And perhaps a Robin Purdy as well, as the line out is successfully gathered by Blake Roth off the top, and Jed trying to get the ball through the hands, but it's just now bobbling about because it went loose and it's been knocked on centre field, and it gives us an opportunity to ask, how come you never got an invite to the ex-players lunch?
I did, actually.
Oh, did you? You turned it down to be with me?
Turned it down to be with you, Dale.
That's
yeah,
very kind.
Professional to the end.
Very, very kind, as we can see a lot of familiar faces as well, just in front of the bar area here at Riverside Park, in deep conversation.
Gary Goodfellow there as well, the eldest of the three brothers. He could play a bit.
There's a sprinkling of spectators in the stand as well on either side. A few people joining us on the wee stand, and then in the big stand or the main stand or the muckle stand or whatever they call it at Jedforest, there is certainly a few spectators taking in this Premiership action live on Rugby Radio, the only place for live updates of national rugby action. We're bringing you live coverage of Jedforest versus Selkirk. Selkirk won the scrum there. Callum Anderson running laterally across the pitch, looks to bring Josh Welsh into play. Does well to ride the challenge there, the towering winger. And Turnbull pirouettes out of what was going to be an absolute rib breaker there from Jedforest, but did well to protect his body. Great tip from Luke Petty, getting the ball through the hands, finds James Beck, heading onto the ball, but he has just been isolated, well defended by Jedforest. Blake Roth is getting all the plaudits from the referee there. And Jed were looking really good there in defence, just able to stop James Beck splintering through them. And now's the chance that they want to try and build into the game, be accurate from a set piece, because it looks like Buckley is going to try and just kick this off the field of play.
Yeah, and it's I think it's about the first time they've had the ball in the last 17-18 minutes. Decent kick by Buckley as well, down into the 22 from where he was, not a bad effort.
Just over the heads of the spectators there, and bubbles off over into the car park area as the ball boys quickly get a ball into the hands of the starting hooker for Jedforest, Harvey Keith, inside the Selkirk 22 now. Ball above his head, finds his target, but Roth hasn't been lifted well enough there. So Shivajak got the ball, threw it straight into the bread basket of Clark Skeldon, and then it was knocked on. So it's probably quite characteristic of the conditions that we've got here, and perhaps some of the conditions that we've got nationwide.
Latest scores: Curry 45, Musselburgh 10, Inbrackie's 12 now, Heriots Blues 24. It's Jedforest 0, Selkirk 19 here. Kelso versus Hoyk still 0-0 at the moment. A yellow card on 6 minutes from Bruce McNeil, who's actually playing in the side today, which is a bit of a surprise. Mar 26, Glasgow Hawks 7 into National 1, and it's Dundee 15, Ayr 33, Gala 5, GHK 7, Glasgow Accies 12, Watsonians 18, and Melrose 17, Biggar 0.
It would have been more of a surprise if Bruce McNeil got a yellow card and he wasn't playing, but he's certainly showing up for Kelso again this weekend, and it's great to see his disciplinary issues have not vacated him in life with Kelso.
Actually, it's Kelso 7, Hoyk 14 is the latest score, so 3 very, very quick tries there in the last minute. Divisions, National 2, we can tell you it's Aberdeen Grammar 10, Falkirk 50 now, Berwick 28, Stirling County 10, and Newton Stewart 6, Lastwade 6.
Scrum put in here, Hugo Alderson just loitering at the tunnel. The referee just having a little conversation then. He's going to give the penalty to Jedforest, and I think we have a bit of ill discipline coming in there from Selkirk. It means that they're just going to gift another opportunity to kick it closer towards their line, which Buckley greatly welcomes.
Yeah, he does indeed. I don't know what happened in the front row there, but the referee wasn't happy with something, and Harvey Keith, the Jed hooker, was quick to get up and give a reasonable shove to his opposite number, James Betts. So I don't know if it's something Betts done or Betts said, but it results in a Jed line-out.
Line-out successful this time. It's been gathered by Blake Roth, but driven back by Selkirk. But Jedforest have done well to maintain possession. It's into the hands of Keith, and now filtering its way back through that driving maul. And Jedforest splintered off the side and makes some good inroads as Skeldon now plucks the ball from the ground and then drives forward. He's asking the referee for the advantage, of which he gets. Penalty advantage coming for the home side as Meadows now scampers towards the line. The 5 metre line is beckoning there. Buckley throws a big dummy but not able to distribute the ball. Elder is now straddling over the ball and manages to find Lauder. It's actually Wardrop who carries forward on this occasion. He is met with some robust Selkirk defence yet again. Roth picks and goes round the corner. The clatchy ground perhaps just slowing these players up slightly. The little dribble through from Dom Buckley just doesn't go to plan. So the referee is going to come back for the penalty there. And it's another penalty against Selkirk. 6 penalties conceded so far in 27 minutes of this game. And it's a chance for Jedforest to perhaps a tap and go here. I don't think they'll opt to go for the scrum. Elder sizing up his options, taps it with his left foot, then distributes to Skeldon, who's taking the ball stationary. So Jedforest have had to retreat in terms of territory as Elder then finds Roth in a wider challenge. McClyman is there, a willing tackler as always. A live wire in the back row for Selkirk, slightly different to his back row partner Westlake. Another penalty advantage coming is, I think, Luke Petty perhaps riding a little bit high this time. Buckley just tips the ball on, a little bit of crossing as well. To the referee, again, is going to give another penalty to Jedforest. And when you're in this perhaps comes back to that 3 points, because when you're in this scenario, you're now 19 points 0-0 down. You had a chance to go 3-0 up and put a little bit of pressure on the opposition. This is where your options are now limited.
Yeah, they have to chase it now. There's nothing else they can do, and they've gone quickly again.
Buckley goes quickly and tips it on to Ferguson. I think he's been hit hard and high yet again. The advantage is coming the way, it's not 10 this time from the referee, but well intercepted by Welsh, offloaded to Anderson, and there was Claire Prairie in behind, but the referee is going to give the penalty. Scott McClyman offside, and he's going to have a word with the captain.
Too many penalties talking up for various things. That needs to improve.
Just telling Scott McClyman that penalties that need to improve. Selkirk have suffered 3 yellow cards this season, Jedforest 7, so they certainly have got a better disciplinary record, but Jedforest are now looking to try and make amends and take advantage of this opportunity that they have. Captain Skeldon again leading the charge towards that try line, now looking to peel round the corner and then jumping and catapulting himself over that breakdown. And it's a brilliant try from Jedforest as they managed to breach the defence. He had to go aerial, but it is Elliot Lauder, the player. He's got 2 tries this season, both came against Selkirk, so he can make that 3 now. And it was a well-worked try. They had to work really hard for it, but discipline-wise for Selkirk, they gave Jedforest that opportunity.
They did, and they've racked up 8. They've racked up 8 penalties now. Selkirk 3 or 4, which were in the last couple of minutes, and you do wonder if one of those could have resulted in a card.
Yeah, you do wonder. I think they're probably lucky because the last one was for not retreating 10. You would have perhaps said it would have been a little bit harsh if they'd been carded for that little faux pas. But it's Don Buckley to try and narrow the margins by 2 points. 5 points to 19. Jedforest currently trail. It's just to the left-hand side of the uprights, a metre or so inside the 22. And he's just scooped it towards the right-hand side as it goes past the right-hand upright. It's not a successful conversion attempt for Don Buckley. He's got 2 already this season, but he can't make it 3, so it's going to remain 5 points to 19 to Selkirk.
Yeah, and I watched him kicking pre-game, Dale, and he was kicking like an absolute dream. He was slotting them over from all over the place, and I'd have bet my house on him slotting that one over. That was eminently kickable.
That's a bold statement for the owner of Border Mortgage Hub, that he would put his house on it. And I bet he's glad he didn't, because the conversion attempt was unsuccessful. And from the restart, the referee is signalling that there's a couple of players who have just been in front of the kicker. Not the first time this season that's happened to Selkirk, by the way, because it's pretty much the way that they lost the game against Musselburgh, but not from the restart. It was a 22 dropout. So it's going to be a put into the scrum for Jedforest. This is their first scrum put in of the game, so this is going to be a really interesting scrum as to how they approach this. This ball probably needs to come out pretty pronto.
Yeah, given some of the other scrums that have gone in the game thus far, Selkirk have been pretty dominant in that area.
Scrums down, the front row's just looking underneath them to see that halfway line. Elder pops it in, the ball is hacked back and then goes back into the body of the scrum, and then at the second attempt has been just punted out. Westlake in defence puts a bit of pressure on, but Colin grabs that loose ball and looks to try and find that gap in defence, not able to. Roth again is a willing runner, but is driven back by this Selkirk defence. A Selkirk defence which on average is conceded 33.2 points a game, which is pretty high. And Jedforest are looking to try and breach it yet again in this fixture. Now Meadows, he acts as a pivot, finds Buckley, who's stationary. He's got Scott McClyman round his socks. And the referee has signalled that there's an injury there. And in this, these difficult underfoot conditions. It looks like Don Buckley has perhaps hurt his left ankle or his left foot. He's grabbing it and grasping it, and you could hear a slight murmur over the referee's mic as he went to ground. And the medical staff are now on attending to the Jedforest fly half, so there's going to be a slight break in play. And Don Buckley is going to get some medical attention, but it is still Jedforest at 5 at Selkirk 19.
OK, latest scores: Curry 52, Musselburgh 10 now, which is a huge score. Of course, Curry also smashed Musselburgh at Stony Hill. Edinburgh Accies 12, Heriots Blues 31 is the latest score. Jedforest 5, Selkirk 19. And Kelso 7, Hawick 21 is a latest score there. 3 tries for Hawick. Mar 31, Glasgow Hawks 7 is a latest score. Down at Fullerton Park. So some big scores today. National 1, Dundee 15, Ayr 38. Home and Hose for another win by the looks of things there. Gala 5, GHK 7. Glasgow Accies 12, Watsonians 18. Watsonians taking that form on the road from last week. Highland 3, GHA 0 is the latest score. And Melrose 24, Biggar 7. 3 tries for Melrose at the moment, heading towards that bonus point. It's all over in East League 2. Hawick Lindeen 23, Duns 0 there. In National 2, Aberdeen Grammar 10, Falkirk 50 is a final score. Falkirk going back to the top of the table, because I can tell you Newton Stewart 6, Lasswade 6 is a draw. Don't forget though, Peebles will be playing Stewart's Melvin, could go I think back to the top of the table as well with a win today. Allen Glens 19, Hamilton 17 latest score, and the result from earlier, Howe Fife 19, Orkney 24.
A replacement for Selkirk is seeing Bruce Riddle come on for James Bett, and also the injury that happened as well. Don Buckley is off, which means Brodie Irvine has come on for Jedforest on the wing. There's going to be a slight change. I think Gregor Young perhaps is going to act as fly half, because from that scrum put in, Jedforest have managed to get the ball, and Ben Fotheringham offloading. A great interlinking play there from Jedforest to try and break free from deep inside their own half, looking to get the tempo up slightly at Riverside as they trail in this Premiership battle live on Rugby Radio. Andrew McComb gets the ball, and Kieran Westlake is then penalised, because it was a great run there from Andrew McComb. The ball came back on Selkirk's side, but Westlake just sealing off the ball means it's another penalty, and another penalty conceded by Selkirk. Their discipline this first half has been pretty poor.
It certainly has. They're up to 9 penalties now, and as I mentioned earlier, the referee, you'll have to think about a card sooner or later, surely.
I think some of there was 3 penalties or so in the 22, which I think perhaps the referee would be looking at them. Some were high challenges, but the rest of them have almost been in no man's land here in between the 22s. But it does give Jedforest a chance to make their way back into the Selkirk half. They'll be hoping they've got a bit of a long-term residency here to see the rest of this first half out. We've got 5 minutes left here in the first half at Riverside. And Jedforest are successful from the line out. They managed to win their own ball, again looking to find Roth. And the ball has made its way infield for Marshall. Now Young, who's now playing at fly half. He finds his captain Skeldon, who has been met by Pickles, who is able to rip the ball free. And then after that, it was Riddle who managed just to pounce on the ball. Now Ben Pickles making his way into the Jedforest half. Alderson scampering away from that breakdown, does well to distribute. Now McClyman has to stretch to gather that ball. He could almost just run into some trouble, but does well to get upright quickly, get his eyes alert. And now the ball is back in the pocket for Aaron McComb. It's been touched in flight. It's been then gathered by Skeldon. He offloads straight into the hands of Elliot Lauder, the only try scorer for Jedforest so far this afternoon. And he has just made his way over the halfway line. Now Riddle, almost like a man possessed off that bench. He's just absolutely clattered Elder at the back of that ruck. Now Gregor Young challenged, pirouettes, brought to ground. The little chip over the head is now Finlay Whelans, who's got to try and up the ante and get back to get the ball. He finds Anderson, left-footed kick high into the sky here at Riverside Park as the lights are now on. It's been gathered, the fallen ball went into the clutches of Robbie Shearer-Gibb, another try scorer in that defeat at Philip Hawke earlier on in September. Away from the breakdown, Ferguson, who's been a bit of a find for this home side this season. But there is going to be a penalty, and I think Robin, for the first time in this game, there is going to be a yellow card. The ball has been launched back at Luke Petty, but we might hear from the referee here. We might not as well, but it is going to be a yellow.
Okay, I'm going to speak to him. Okay, foul play trumps area. Right. Okay. Back 10 just now. Yeah, that could quite easily go the other way.
Yeah, no. Spoke to him.
Foul play trumps it for me, but let's be careful in there, okay?
So, yellow card for Luke Petty. You did say it was coming, and it came in the form of the front row, so that's going to be a bit of an equaliser perhaps, because Luke Petty is a bit of an anchor in that scrum battle. So the kick downfield, and you heard the referee just speaking to the Jed camp about the retaliation.
Yeah, don't need to go down that road, Jed. They need to get back into this game. And that's 10 penalties conceded by Selkirk now, and they're 19-5 to the good still. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, that's a big penalty. 10 penalties to 4 is what I've got here, and the line out again successfully won by Jedforest. It's been flat back and then knocked on by Selkirk as there was a fight for the ball and close encounters. So it's going to be a scrum put in. It's going to be a scrum put in to Jedforest, this third scrum of the afternoon. Almost early evening as the night starts to encroach on Jedforest at Riverside Park. There's going to be a change there as well for Selkirk. Callum Turnbull's been withdrawn and Jake Milburn is coming onto the field for his 10th appearance for Selkirk. A replacement of necessity more than anything else to try and shore up that front row. You'll perhaps see Andrew McComb then squeeze into the middle row, or even Westlake. It looks like Westlake has made his way there, and Andrew McComb is on the left hand side of the scrum at blind side. Scrum put in. A scrum put in for Jedforest. It's been rolled into the tunnel, and it has been the equaliser that Jedforest have been looking for, because Ben Fotheringham has now made great inroads into the 22, and it's another penalty here. And then there's a bit of a ding dong on the side as well. Who said border derbies were boring? It looked like that was I think it was Elliot Lauder was off the side of the pitch, and the referee is really signalling. We can get the intermittent verbals from the referee, but we can see what he's signalling. A lot of high challenges coming in here from Selkirk.
There certainly is, far too many. If you're Sash Henderson, admittedly some of them wouldn't have been last season, but this is the world in which we live nowadays, and they've got to lower the tackle height.
Harvey Keith to throw into the line out again inside the Selkirk the 22. They're down to 14 men.
Yeah, Red, let's take a step. Bring the hooker across into the middle. Blue, I'm happy with blue. Red, you set your mark. Okay, that's good.
Referee just making sure that you can get this line out formed, and rough is the target yet again. Every single line out that's been won, the 7 of them that have been won for Jedforest have been all rough. And then off of the driving maul, Harvey Keith looks to try and breach the defensive line. He's been met well by some stern Selkirk defence, but presents the ball back well. And Jedforest are now starting to up the ante, and you imagine now before half time, if they're able to get a try here, we've got a game in our hands, and after about 20 minutes we certainly didn't think that was going to be the case. Meadows rolls the ball back into the hands of Elliot Lauder. He then tips the ball forward and knocks it on. Shivarjak looks to, I don't think he was going to go the distance from the 5 metre line, but he's certainly full of endeavour. Ball through the hands. Nixon then punts it downfield. It's going to end up in the hands of Mason Cullen. Does well to gather on the turn as well, and then looks to try and spot the gap. Kicks it over the top and then bundles his way over Hugo Alderson. And then in the backfield there was a Selkirk player who was making his way back, and I think it was Andrew Cochrane who was the first player to dive on that loose bobbling ball. Alderson finds Shivarjak. He carries forward into the chest of Blake Roth, who looks to dig about in that breakdown for that ball. Slow play down as Alderson then finds Westlake, who looks to try and pierce through those 2 Jedforest challenges. Alderson taking his time with the ball and dribbling it to the back of that snake that's formed at the back of that ruck. It's been hoisted into the sky, and Cullen again has watched that, expertly grabs it and clutches it to his chest. A little kick of the heels, and Finlay Whelans does well to challenge, supported there by Bruce Riddle, but the ball's now floated over the head. Harvey Keith then filters the ball over to Brodie Irvine. He makes good inroads there as well. Ball offloaded back inside. Elliot Lauder is in support up towards the 22 metre line. Keith has to act as the scrum half, the auxiliary scrum half on this occasion. Jedforest not getting in support there quick enough, but the ball has come back as Elder gets the ball. Big Harry Meadows now pirouetting out of a challenge that was presented to him by Bruce Riddle. Shearer Gibb, his first receiver, just links up with Gregor Young, who's on the wrap, coming round the corner. Ferguson now acting as scrum half, and it almost looks like Jedforest are just trying to deploy the option of get the ball away from the breakdown as quick as possible, because Ferguson again is the scrum half there, Fotheringham burrows his way over the challenge there of young Hugo Alderson, the scrum half from Heriots. Now Young, he finds Cranston with a flat pass into the eye line of Rory Marshall, but it just glances in front of him, and the referee has signalled that it is half time here at Riverside Park. And the last bit in that first half, it looked like Jedforest perhaps could have narrowed the deficit that they were facing, but a try from Bet. Then obviously we had a try as well from Andrew McComb and Whelan's. It gave Selkirk a handsome advantage, but Elliot Lauder has breathed a little bit of life back into this Jedforest campaign. Half time it's 5 points to 19, but it's been an interesting battle here.
It certainly has. Jed started really well. They didn't, or they gave up the 3 points they would have if they'd gone for the penalty, clearly thinking about, they need more from this game than just 4 points, but nothing came of it. They didn't score a try, and almost sort of Selkirk went down the other end, and in the blink of an eye they'd scored 19 points.
The referee just having a conversation with Aaron McComb as they trudge off the field of play, and it's certainly a lot to play for in their second half. Selkirk are certainly chasing that bonus point. It would give them a valuable 1 point and deal another blow to Jedforest in their quest for survival in the Premiership. But Jedforest have perhaps got a mountain to climb if they're going to stop Selkirk getting anything from this battle. But join us back in the second half for further coverage here on Rugby Radio, as we can give you some updates from some results and updates of scores from around the country.
This is Rugby Radio.
Rugby Radio.
To see the fantastic range of learning opportunities to study right here in the Borders, visit borderscollege.ac.uk today. You don't have to go far to go far. Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Rugby Radio, brought to you by Borders College.
Jerry Rafferty playing on Rugby Radio as the rain comes down here at Jedforest at Riverside Park. It's half-time 5-19 in favour of Selkirk. Selkirk in search of their bonus point. We can go to Rayburn Place. It's all over there. Edinburgh Accies against Heriots. Sam Matthews.
And that is full-time here at Rayburn Place. The final score, Edinburgh Accies 17, Heriots Blues 31. A good display from the away side, starting off strong with 2 tries in the first 10 minutes through Paul Christie and Cameron Major. Accies then got themselves on the board on 28 minutes through Callum Ram. Just before half-time though, Malky Keogh, number 6 for Heriots, put their 3rd try of Heriots of the afternoon on the board, and that sent them into the sheds 5 points to 17. Kicking was a bit inconsistent in the first half with only 1 from 4 off the tee between both teams. After the half-time talk in the sheds, Heriots started off strong again with a try 4 minutes in through their hooker Rory Jackson on a line-out maul. He deserved it. He had a great game this afternoon, I thought, especially in that front row. Accies once again then tried to close the distance through their scrum half. Patrick Ritchie, he got a try after sniping around the edge of the ruck after a bit of consistent play in the Heriots 22 in what felt like a long time for the Accies. After that though, Heriots decided to run away with it. A broken down play in open field resulted in them pilfering the ball, and it went out wide to the replacement scrum half Ben Singleton. He scored to make the score 12-31 for the away side. Right at the death though, Accies tried to make it close and tried to salvage some losing bonus points but couldn't do so. On the 75th minute though, Finlay McNeil, the sub winger, he did come on and get a try. But at the end of the day, it is 5 points for the visitors, Heriots, none for Edinburgh Accies. As I said, final score, Edinburgh Accies 17, Heriots 31.
Final score in the Premiership, Curry 52, Musselburgh 10. Bit of a thumping down there at Millennium Park. Curry back to their high-scoring best. Jedforest 5, Selkirk 19. It's half-time here, although the players are about to come back onto the pitch again. Kelso 12, Hoyt 21 is a half-time scoreline, and they're still playing at Fullerton Park. There was an injury for about 7 or 8 minutes holding up play. The latest we have there is Mar 31, Glasgow Hawks 14. In National 1, Dundee 15, Ayr 43 is a final score. It's currently Gala 10, GHK 7. Glasgow Accies 17, Watsonians 18 is a full-time result. Highland 3, GHA 10 is a latest score. And half-time at the Greenyards, Melrose 24, Biggar 14. In National 2, it's ended Aberdeen Grammar 10, Falkirk 50, Berwick 28, Stirling County 13 was a latest score. We're still trying to get that one confirmed for you. Newton Stewart 6, Lasswade 6 was a final score. Peebles 15, Stewart's Melville 16. That is half-time. That game kicked off at 3 o'clock. Into National 3, the latest we have, Allen Glens 19, Hamilton 17, Dumfries 47, Hillhead Jordan Hill 15 is a full-time score. Howarfife 19, Orkney 24 full-time score, and a full-time score at Burnbrae, West of Scotland 6, Preston Lodge 28, so Preston Lodge stay top of the table. Garnock still undefeated in National 4. They've beaten Whitecraigs 20 points to 3. Greenock Wanderers 18, Strathmore 25 is a full-time result in National 4. Also North Berwick 28, Ross High 19 is a full-time score. Well, they're back on the pitch now. Riverside Park, it's Jedforest against Selkirk. Let's return to Robin and Dale.
Polished as always there, Stuart. Thanks for the update, and it's time to get the second half underway here at Riverside Park. Jedforest currently trailing 5 points to 19, and the referee blasts his whistle, and Selkirk kick deep in towards the Jedforest 22. It's been gathered by Robbie Shearer Gibb, who manages to gather the ball and try and make his way in towards the Selkirk defence. And a bit of seesaw in rugby here as Elder is dispatched of his scrum cap and then dispatches of the ball to his captain Clark Skeldon, who's been challenged on the 22 metre line, now deep back towards Cranston, who takes up kicking duties from his own 22 metre area, as Callum Anderson then just puts on the afterburners, thinks he spots a chasm in the defence of Jedforest, and instead of opting and even thinking about kicking, he just put the head down. And now Bruce Riddle is going direct as well. Selkirk with their tails up at the start of their second half. Westlake bounces the first challenge, then almost bounces the second. It takes 2 or 3 men from Jedforest to bring the back row down to ground. Nixon getting the ball through the hands. Callum Anderson then linking up with Josh Welsh, who comes back on an abrasive cut, and he's looking to make his way towards the line, but he's been well defended. Ball bubbles out from Hugo Alderson. It's found Callum Anderson, who's been wrapped up there by Shearer Gibb, and also I think Ben Fotheringham was there as well. Alderson distributes to Scott McClyman, who is as wiry and weaselly as always with the ball in hand. Milburn It bounces a couple of challenges. Again, it takes 3 or 4 Jedforest players to bring a Selkirk runner down. Alderson to McComb. It's Aaron McComb this time. Sizes up his options. Looks to go against the grain. Finds Callum Anderson. And he then flops over the try line for a try. And it has been a brilliant start to this second half for Selkirk. And it was good awareness there from Aaron McComb to spot the gap on the right hand side, but Callum Anderson essentially was the player that started that passage of play as he gathered the ball deep inside his own half and sparked a little bit of life into that passage.
He did indeed. It was great play by the little general McComb. He knew where the space was, he knew where his fullback Anderson was, and that is the all important 4th try for Selkirk as well. So they will leave here with minimally 1 point this afternoon, but you fancy it to be a bit more than that.
Yeah, you would say they're in the driving seat to collect the full haul, the other 4 points that they'll be looking to. That would be in the remit certainly before the game. Was leave here with at least 4 and target the 5. And Alderson has got a chance here to add a little bit more, and he strikes the ball with so much ease and from an acute, difficult angle is able to add the extras. 26 points to 5 now. Selkirk are in front, and Jedforest really need to pull this one from the fire, but it's certainly looking ominous for the home side.
Yeah, it is, Dale. I think we need to be honest and say that, you know, even if they come back and win this and get a try bonus point, then, you know, Selkirk at the very least are going to leave with 1 point. So, yeah, looking very ominous for Jed now, as you say.
Back into the restart, and it's been kicked downfield, and it's into the 22. It's been controlled by Aaron McComb, and then it exit stage left at this time because he's just punted it off the field of play. And it's in front of the wee stand, just shy of the 10 metre line. So Jedforest having a little bit of a territorial gain from that restart. And it looks like Ferguson is going to go over at the sidelines and have a little conversation with Harvey Keith. The referee just setting out the gaps that he's wanting. Again, Roth is the target in the line out. He's been the target ever since the beginning of the game. He's caught every single one, so that's the 8th successful line out for Roth. And he's obviously the trusted recipient of the ball at that line out option. Now, Elliot Lauder ducks the shoulder, the try scorer in the first half. The 2 tries at Philippock earlier on in the season as well, so he's certainly liking attacking against this Selkirk side, but defended well. Ball distributed, finds Marshall. He carries forward. Now Blake Roth is carrying on the fringes of that ruck. He does well to make a couple of yards, as well as Lewis Elder has his first real snipe of the game on 43 minutes. Spotted a little gap around the fringes of that ruck. He's now asking his Jedforest teammates to support him and get that ball back as Skeldon acts as a pivot. Finds Shearer Gibb, who goes through the first challenge from Milburn. McClymont's the second, and now it's the replacement, Brodie Irvine, who has to duck down and burrow in between the challenges that are coming from Selkirk. Bruce Riddle, who's certainly had his Red Bull before the game because he seems to be everywhere since he's come onto this field of play, challenging and being stubborn in defence. But Jedforest are being accurate in attack this time. Good offload. It's went to ground but been scooped up by Gregor Young, and it's going to come back for a penalty. And it's a penalty against Selkirk. Centre field as well for the home side. There's going to be more than 3 points that they certainly need, but Cranston is going to look to maybe just lob this into the corner. A little bit of a wind picking up. He's facing a slight headwind now, and he kicks it forward. It's got a little scoop on it. It's got the distance as well. Well judged there from the inside centre.
Was a great kick by Owen Cranston. He's been one of Jed's more consistent performers this season. He's stepping up now with the kicking duties. He's given his team a decent opportunity here.
He's got a couple of tries so far this season, making his 30th appearance in the Jedforest first team, and he's taking his side a bit closer towards that Selkirk try line. Now Harvey Keith again told to just hold until the referee Gordy Reid is ready to get play back underway. Roth, target yet again, successfully gathered, brought down. It splinters off to the side, and it's Ferguson who's going solo. Lauder burrows forward again. He's run aground in this clatchy, sticky surface underfoot here at Riverside Park, but the Jedforest are going old school. It's pick and goes round the fringes, asking this Selkirk side to defend them. Good challenge from Munro Job there, who's coming to the field of play. Now Young just tips the ball into Shearer Gibb. He's almost handbagged there by Ross Nixon as they look to try and choke the life out of the winger in the most professional of terms, in terms of the challenge that was there. The referee is going to come back for a penalty again against Selkirk. So another penalty conceded, and Selkirk, discipline-wise, are continuing in the tangent that they left the first half.
Yeah, a couple of quick-fire penalties so far this half. That takes them up to 13 rather, in total for the contest so far.
I was going to wonder about your counting there. I thought my maths was bad at times, but if it was 35, I thought there was something doing wrong. But Jedforest do have the penalty here, and it is Elliot Lauder. He's going to just tap and go forward, and he's running to Westlake. He's had a pretty eventful game so far in this game, in his debut for Selkirk. Now picked round the corner. Inroads being made there by Jedforest. They're looking to go quick and go short and keep it narrow as well, and win the arm wrestle against the visiting side. Again, a game that they currently trail 5 points to 26. Looking to breach this whitewash, pick the gaps in the Selkirk defensive line, but they're staying there poised and ready, just lurking round the corner, not encroaching that try line there. That's essentially the offside line as well. As Jed look to go again, they go yet again to the left hand side, going narrower and narrower, looking to pick off the defenders here from Selkirk. Riddle waits, Rough loiters, the bodies bundle over. The referee is having a little look there, and he's put a little bit of time off there because Ian Herd is having a conversation. Aaron McCone clapping his hands as well, and I think he thinks it's been held up, and it has been, and it'll be brilliant to see the body who's got under that, and it is Kieran Westlake, the player aforementioned about being eventful in his debut for Selkirk. He stops what would have been a certain try.
He's been good this afternoon. He looks a decent acquisition. The ex-Plymouth Albion man, you're no mug if you play at that level, if you've played before at that level.
Kick downfield from Selkirk, goes towards the Jedforest 10 metre line. Mason Cullen, with his blonde locks just bouncing in the wind as he sizes up his options and then just puts on the afterburners and goes over the opposite 10 metre line. Makes a good 20 metres there from that kick from where he gathered the ball. Jedforest now with the ball in hand, find Gregor Young. He's got some options and he looks to opt to use a trusted one in Rory Marshall, who just bounces off the first attempted tackle there from Andrew McComb. And again, another penalty coming on. And it's against Selkirk. And Ross Nixon is making his way over to have a conversation with the referee. And I think it's going to be a yellow card for Ross Nixon. So just as Selkirk get back up to 14 players, they're down to 14 players because Ross Nixon is going to take 10 minutes in the sin bin.
And it had to happen again, just the relentlessness of the Selkirk penalties. And it was, I've seen it from here actually, it was slightly high in fairness. There was no malicious intent whatsoever, but the referees had enough for the time being.
So Cranston just kicks it downfield into the 22. The 22 metre line was his target, and it's a target that he has met relatively comfortably. The Jedforest players in their red and blue tops, which are now caked and drenched in mud and absorbing the water that is landed on this Riverside Park here over the last few days. It's a successful line out. Roth, they brought down successfully. The maul crabbing towards the left hand side. It's going very lateral, not making much inroads in terms of going towards that Selkirk try line, but protected at the back is Harvey Keith. He then gives the ball to Elder. Now Gregor Young taking the ball stationary, twists and weaves out of a couple of challenges, but then is run aground. Good defence again from Selkirk, and perhaps having that natural spark at fly half is perhaps coming to bite Jedforest on the bum a little bit, because they're not able to really get any width in their play when the forwards do the hard work, and it's run aground yet again, and it's going to be a scrum, and it's going to be a put into the scrum this time to Selkirk.
Yeah, and they're really just making do at the moment, Jed. They've got a winger playing 9 and a winger playing 10, and distribution's always going to be an issue when that's the case. They've got square pegs in round holes, effectively just making the best of what they've got.
Yeah, really, the thing about Jedforest is they're spoilt with really talented rugby players that can adapt and change their roles, but it's difficult to be as impactful if you've got to adapt to different positions week on week, and certainly injury personnel as well. The scrum put in. This one is certainly successful. The ball has just been left in the clar in the ground, and the scrum just rampages over the ball, leaving it, but it's been well recovered by Andrew McComb. Westlake then manages to get the ball, tries to make an industrious carry towards the Jedforest defence, but the referee is going to bring that back. I think he's saying that there's been an accidental offside there, so there's going to be a put into the scrum, and it's going to be a put into the scrum for Jedforest.
Yeah, 10 minutes gone in the second half. They need something right now. If it's going to be the great escape, they need to win this game, and it needs to start from here.
It's difficult to see where that perhaps will come from. Brodie Irvine has been deployed from the bench. They've got Ben Howe, Gregor Law, who I think is a terrific player, Nicky Bates and Hamish Stenhouse ready to call upon at any given time. But perhaps the game is not going to be won in the forwards for Jedforest this afternoon at Riverside Park. The scrum has been going backwards, and the scooped ball from Elder has just not went to hand, and the loose ball has been stifled there from Selkirk. Ball's not coming out of that set piece. A little bit of afters there. Bruce Riddle in the thick of it with Blake Roth, but the shrill of the whistle stops any distasteful coming together from either side. So it is going to be a scrum, and this time it's going to go for Selkirk. But we're almost at a period of the game where you'd almost say that bonus point try, both teams almost look like they've just come to terms with how this game's going to pan out for the remaining half hour, not to try and make it less exciting for anybody listening.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's almost got the feel of a training game now since that fourth try for Selkirk. Selkirk know the game is in the bag for all intents and purposes, and Jed know that Selkirk have got the game in the bag as well, and are potentially just playing for a bit of pride now, which is not great to see for this proud club, but it is what it is for them.
Ball put into the scrum. Hugo Alderson is then loitering in behind, but it's Andrew McComb who gathers, and then first time we've really seen Callum Anderson rocket a ball downfield. It's been palmed by Mason Cullen, and then he looks to try and spiral it downfield, but didn't make the connection perhaps that he felt he wanted to, and just skews it off to the right hand side. So a good option again from Callum Anderson at fullback, makes good territory, and the error from, you've got to say it's an error from Mason Cullen at fullback, means that they've relinquished a lot of territory there, Jedforest.
Yeah, they have, and that's one of the several facets that Callum Anderson gives you, as we mentioned before. Just he's got a siege gun left boot, and he booted to good effect there, and on a wet, damp day like this, he's going to get extra purchase as well.
Bruce Riddle taking up throwing duties at the line out on the 22 metre line. He looks to find his target, not able to. It's then just bubbled off the belly of Shafajak and then gone loose. Brodie Irvine had to just stifle in that bouncing ball, but he's managed to just break free, and now he is herring out of his own 22 metre line, but just unfortunately for him, I think he tried to carry the ball in one hand, and he's been well defended there by Aaron McComb, who was covering the field. But what a great break there from Brodie Irvine, but it still remains Jedforest 5, Selkirk 26.
Latest scores we have for you: Kelso 15, Hoyk 21. Another penalty from Dwayne Patterson closing the gap in that one. Into National 2, Gala 27, GHK 7, or try bonus for Gala at Netherdale. Highland 3, GHA 13 is the latest score at Canal Park in Inverness. And although Melrose were 17-0 up, the score is currently Melrose 24, bigger 35. So big things happening at the Green Yard. Some full-time results for you as well. Allen Glens 44, Hamilton 22 in National 3, and Berwick confirmed now. Berwick 28, Stirling County 15. They're off the bottom.
Scrum put in here as we gather our composure, as I just got attacked by a leaf, and you would have thought it was a pterodactyl that was attacking me, as Robin Purdy had a little wry laugh at me as I jumped out my skin. But the scrum put in there. The scrum has run aground, and the referee has signalled that there's going to be a penalty, and it's the set piece there. Once you've got your composure back now, Robin, but the set piece there is Selkirk have had the upper hand all afternoon in that battle.
Oh, they have. They've been really, really impressive up front today. Selkirk starts from the front row, and they've got strength and depth in the front row now. Selkirk as well. You look at who's on the bench. Bruce Riddle, he's played like a man possessed since he came on. Possibly a wee bit miffed having lost the jersey over the last couple of weeks, and Jake Milburn as well, the summer signing. He's another that brings a bit of oomph from the bench as well. So yeah, it starts from the front row, but middle row and back row have all been prominent today as well.
Selkirk have opted to go for the penalty. Hugo Alderson wanting to get his points tally up just in front of the 10-metre line, but has just skewed it to the left-hand side of the upright, so they can't add that additional 3 points. And it remains 5 points to 26 here.
What could the thinking be there then, Dale? A strange 3-pointer?
Yeah, I think it's perhaps just keep the tally going, just keep a bit of scoreboard pressure on. The 22 dropout is ended up in the hands of Alderson. Anderson then has got the ball. He finds Pickles. The ball ricocheting off, and Anderson is the player who's managed to gather yet again. It's then been kicked downfield, and it's not going to go over the try line, so Mason Cullen is forced to kick it back towards the Selkirk waiting players in the backfield. One of them is Anderson, who's gliding his run over that 10-metre line, going lateral but evades the first challenge, looking to present that ball back, and it's now just a little bit of a bun fight there as they try to get the ball on either side. Jedforest win on this occasion and come up with the ball. Elder distributes, and it's the towering second row of Wardrop now who's carrying forward, supported there by Lauder and Roth. Elder finds Ferguson. He just stamps off his right foot and looks to just pluck out that little gap in that Selkirk defence, not able to make any inroads as Young offloading out the back. Brilliant awareness there, spatial awareness from the replacement fly half for Jedforest, just getting the arms round the back to bring Shearer Gibb into the field of play. Now Skeldon, he goes a little bit more Skeldon-esque and goes forward, just tucks the ball, looks to burrow forward, and now Owen Cranston, he's driven back by Luke Petty, a player who was yellow carded earlier on in the game on 36 minutes, now back on the field of play, replenished and rejuvenated. You can see there from that challenge as well, he's still got plenty to do in this game. Roth acting as scrum half finds Gregor Young, he throws the dummy, looks to go back in field, but he's been wrapped up by a gargantuan Munro Job, who's certainly looks like he's enjoyed a bit of South African culture when he's been over in South Africa, because he has exploded in mass, hasn't he?
He certainly has. He spent a bit of time in South Africa on the McPhail scholarship, and obviously he's been in the Super Series rugby since he has been back, and he actually works at a local gym as well. So yeah, young man certainly bulked up, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's looking in incredible condition, and great to see that being so beneficial for a young Borders player going on the McPhail scholarship to South Africa. At the time of Stellenbosch, I believe it was the club that they're linked up with over there. So
I'm sure a couple of stakes down that neck of the woods as well.
He's certainly had a couple. And play up towards the Selkirk 22 now. The throw into the line out for Harvey Keith again, finds Blake Roth. This time he was almost challenged in the air. The ball is in the nucleus of that maul. It's not coming back at any rate, as Selkirk are looking to just starve this and strangle this passage of play, but the referee is saying that there's a player driving in from the side, so he's going to give the penalty. And again, just these little errors coming in from Selkirk, and the penalties are really totting up again.
Yeah, 5 in the second half now. For what I'm not sounding like a broken record, it really is something that against stronger opposition they'd need to address.
But is that perhaps a sign of why they're second bottom in the league? They're playing a lot of good rugby, and there's a lot of expansive play. They've got good direction, a lot of good rugby players, but they've been coughing up territory and then just inviting pressure in this game against weaker opposition, you would say.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's inviting pressure, and it's needless pressure at that. It's just been so many needless penalties in there today as well.
Harvey Keith on the 5 metre line, and the referee again just waiting to get this line out secured and ready. He throws in. Roth, right hand, just sticks to the ball. He's able to gather. It's then filtering its way to the back, where Harvey Keith, the bearded hooker, just waits at the back of the driving maul. He's got the ball tucked under the right arm, and Ferguson is there in support. They're burrowing and they're trying and pumping the legs. They look to try and get over the line, but the referee is going to award the penalty. And it's going to be an interesting conversation here. And it's certainly going to be an interesting conversation to see who he picks out as well.
Bruce Riddle,
I think he's feeling awfully generous with the cards this afternoon. Gordy reads, but this could be another player going to the sin bin. He's just having a chat with Scott McClyman. He's then going to his left-hand pocket, and he's going to distribute the yellow card to Bruce Riddle. So he's had a good introduction to the game, but he's going to miss the next 10 minutes. Number 16 for Selkirk just trudges off the backfield. And on 6 hour mark, Selkirk are down to 14 men yet again. Jedforest now take the quick penalty. Picking round the corner, something which they got their try from in the first half, and it looks like they've got the try for in the second half as well, because they've just burrowed their way round the side, and it looks like big Harry Meadows is the player to rise last from that cluster of bodies, and Jedforest make the numerical advantage on the field count, and they get their second try of the afternoon.
And yet they've battled away manfully, you have to say. They've been aided and abetted, of course, by the number of penalties and yellow cards that have been coughed up by the suitors, but yet they'll never give up. Jed, of course, and yeah, a little bit of consolation for them there. Word for Blake Roth as well. He's been what a work rate he has, and he secures pretty much all their line-out ball as well. Both sides of the ball. He's been really impressive this afternoon.
Yeah, I think he secures all their line-out ball, really. The conversion attempt from Cranston. He likes it as well because he's turned away pretty quickly, so he's got a conversion for Jedforest. So now 12 points to 26 on the hour mark. And we can see as well, just in front of us is Gregor Law, a welcomed return to this Jedforest side. I think he's such an impressive rugby player.
Here. Great to see him back.
Yeah, it is great to see him back. And when the going gets tough, it's great to see players like him just dusting himself down. Had a horrendous time with injury, but he's back in a Jedforest shirt now, donning number 18. It's the most immaculate shirt on the field, but I don't think it's going to stay that way for long.
No, you don't imagine so. And yeah, just to reiterate how good it is to see him back. We were here for the game last season. It was over a year ago. Jed at home to Mar, where he injured himself in the warm-up, and yeah, it's been a long road to recovery for Gregor, not for the first time in his career either. And yeah, brilliant to see him back.
A quick latest score: Kelso 20, Hawick 28. Ross Graham sent off for Hawick. They're down to 14 men. In fact, 30 men, because there's a yellow card as well.
Selkirk are back up to 14 men because I can see Ross Nixon is back on the field of play. Bruce Riddle still off. Line out directly in front of us has been gathered again by Blake Roth, who just chucks it off the top. Gregor Young now hares towards the defensive line, looking to bring Gregor Law into play, and he makes a couple of metres and gets through that physical encounter, carries forward, and you can just almost see there's almost just a little bit more spring in Jedforest's step after that try that they got, and also probably since Gregor Law has come on as well. Elder, he passes to Clark Skeldon. What a formidable second row partnership that is, Skeldon and Law. And Gregor Young just tips the ball back, and it has been gathered there by Ben Howe, who's also on the field of play. So a couple of replacements there from Jedforest, and they're bringing a couple of heavies onto the field because that's a couple of real impactful players that they can call upon in Howe and Law. Now Ferguson, who's had a good game as well, a lot of energy shown, a lot of endeavour from the young front row forward. Roth acts as a pivot. Young then filters the ball to Gregor Law, who just manages to ride the challenge. There's a challenge from Ben Pickles, who did well. Now Marshall bouncing off his right foot back in field. Made his way up to the 10 metre line now. Elder arrives on the scene of the ruck, finds a couple of his forwards just loitering out a little bit wider, linking up to really breach the Selkirk defence, but it's holding strong so far. The ball's not went hand, so Ferguson just has to scoop it off the deck. He's been almost scragged there by Ben Pickles. Elder finds Young. Young tips on. Skeldon's not able to gather. It's been knocked on there, and it's so unfortunate for Jedforest because I was thoroughly enjoying that passage of play. They were really the lines of they were running, the hands, the direction that they were playing, but just running a little bit too tight there and running into a bit of trouble.
Yeah, some of the passing was just a wee bit flat as well, and it's come to nothing. But again, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to battle here to the end. A couple of tries, looking for more. 24 minutes on the clock, so they've got 15 and a bit minutes to see what they can do in this one. But yeah, there's good players in there, and you mentioned the second row combination of Gregor Law and Clark Skeldon is, arguably when they're both fit and fully firing, it's as good as any in the division.
Totally. I totally agree with that statement, and I think the
combinations at other teams.
Okay, let's bring you up to date then with what's happening in the Premiership. Of course, it's all over in the 2 o'clock kickoffs. Curry 52, Musselburgh 10, final score. Edinburgh Accies 17, Heriots Blues 31. We'll get reaction from both sides at the end of this game. It's currently Jedforest 12, Selkirk 26 at Riverside Park. Kelso 20, Hawick 28 is a latest score, and it's all over at Fullerton Park. Mar 31, Hawks 14. In National 1, Dundee 15, Ayr 43 is a final score. Gala 34, GHK 7 is the latest from Netherdale. It's all over at the match between Glasgow Accies and Watsonians. 18-17 to Watsonians there. And the latest at Highland, it's Highland 3, GHA 21 now, which could be great news for Ayr. And Melrose 24, Biggar 42. Remember, Melrose were 70-0 up at the Greenyards, where it's all changed now. Final scores in Division 2, Aberdeen Grammar 10, Falkirk 50, which is good news for Berwick. Berwick won today 28-15 at home with a bonus point against Stirling County. It ended 6-6 Newton Stewart against Lasswade, and Peebles 15, Stewart's Melville 16 is a latest score.
I think the bigger camp were certainly reeling from a comment from Ian Chisholm in the midweek podcast. So I think certainly he's lit a fire underneath that bigger side. But here at Riverside, Selkirk are holding all the cards, and they are certainly purring here because they are in the driving seat. A kick downfield from Callum Anderson is looking to bobble its way infield. It's been well kept in by Mason Cullen, who just had to just flap at it to keep it infield. Brodie Irvine was back, looking to take play further downfield with a big kick, but again it's just skewed off his boot. So it means that's pretty much as good as a 50-22 anyway.
I was just about to say that's for all intents and purposes a 50-22, and I spoke about it earlier. It's a day for it, and Callum Anderson, he's the man you want in that situation. Just what an out it gives you when the player's got a boot that size.
He's just so casual as well, and I think sometimes that's your downfall, because when it goes bad you just get accused of being a little bit too casual. But he's a really controlled fullback, and equally comfortable at 10 as well. The line out successful for Selkirk. They brought it down. Clark Skeldon looking to snake his way through. The big pause of Gregor Law as well getting through, but Alderton manages just to escape. McComb gathers the ball. Ben Pickles is now hot-footing his way towards the line, but well defended there by Mason Cullen, who just torpedoes himself at the kneecaps of Ben Pickles. Nixon sizes up his options and then dribbles a little cute ball downfield. Mason Cullen has to watch that closely, and he's tried to gather and just fumbled it forward or off the field of play. The referee just having a little look in conversation with Ian Herd, and it looks like it went back, so it's going to be a throw into the line out. And again, it's a good attacking option, and it's worked for Selkirk.
Yeah, good option there by the centre. Nixon grubbered it through, and certainly had Finlay Whelans on that far side interested, and Mason Cullen had to hair across. Wasn't the most tidy bit of work, but he's managed to avert the danger for the time being at least.
Luke Petty now throwing the ball into the line out. He just goes short because I don't think that's one of his strong points. So Westlake just not lifted. He was turned round, just gathers the ball. They look to then find Andrew McComb. He just runs into a whole cluster of, it's pretty much the Twin Towers there, Fotheringham and Law with the two players that are waiting there. It'd be a decent tag team at WrestleMania, that pair. They carry forward from Scott McClymont now, Alderton. The ball getting through the hands, and it just went through the hands of Westlake, not able to gather. But the penalty is going to go the way of Selkirk, so they get another chance to. They were maybe thinking about stabbing at the corner, but Scott McClymont is going over there, quickly pulling rank, I think, which is great from the captain. He wants to go quickly, and he is just going alone. But the players have arrived on the scene to try and secure that ball. They know that they've not got a throw-in option to the line-out, so Shivajak is now deployed to carry forward. Meadows has gone off his feet. Now Munro Job tips the ball on to Andrew McComb. It was gathered and controlled brilliantly there by Ross Nixon, who just put his foot on the ball. nothing happening there, so I think the referee is going to bring that back and knock on, and perhaps that is the option that they maybe should have went for, is just go for the set piece.
Yeah, I would suggest so. It's going to come back and it's going to be a scrum. Anyway, an area where they've been fairly dominant this afternoon, but yeah, as you mentioned before, Dale, it's just the game's just got that element of sort of petering towards full time.
Yeah, especially at half time when the heavens opened and there was a downpour here at Riverside Park. It's certainly not given the conditions any lift at all. And the little bit of sun that we have seen here in Jedburgh this afternoon was slightly overruled by the downpour. The scrum put in now is to Selkirk. The referee just having a conversation with the front rows, so Petty, Milburn and Shafarjak in the front row for Selkirk. Still unchanged for Jedforest, so they still line up with Ferguson, Keith and Meadows, and it's pretty much three props in the front row for Selkirk after the yellow card to Bruce Riddle. So down they pack. The referee controlling the scrum, barking the orders. The shoulders now collide as Alderson just rolls the ball into what is a secure platform that is making inroads, even though it's personnel down. It's going forward, the penalty advantage coming for Selkirk. Controlled at the base there. Andrew McComb still controlling it, but it's just squirmed forward. So the referee is going to come back for the scrum. Just when you're saying about the game slightly taking the sting out of it, I would go for another scrum here.
Yeah, if I was the Selkirk captain, I would do the exact same.
And it's not pretty, but you've got the bonus point in the bag.
Yeah.
You're keeping your opposition downfield.
Yeah, wind down the clock.
And that is exactly what they're looking to do, because the forwards are having a little moment in their respective camps, discussing about the inevitable set piece that they're going to face. And Jedforest were up against it. And it does look like Selkirk are back up to a fully replenished 8 in that scrum. You can see Westlake in the second row. McClymonde on the left-hand side of the scrum with Munro Job on the right, with Andrew McComb just packing down at the tail. So they've got a full complement of forwards to call upon. The referee, as the scrum goes down, blasts his whistle quickly to just signal that he wants it reset. Difficult conditions underfoot here at Riverside Park, just a reminder. And 32 minutes gone in the second half, so we've only got 8 minutes left here. It is Jedforest 12, Selkirk 26. Bonus point already in the bag, on the bus back to Philippoch, and they're hoping they can unzip that bag and stuff another 4 points in it. A try here would certainly do that cause the world of good. Scrum again, nudged together as they squeeze in that front row. Alderson rolls a ball into one of the most secure platforms that he's probably ever going to see, but he's not controlled at the back of that scrum. But Andrew McComb does well to try and get the ball back, but there's hands all over that. The referee has signalled there's a penalty, and it's going to go the way of Selkirk. Hands on the floor from Ben Fotheringham. So the referee has perhaps let Selkirk off there slightly. Andrew McComb looked somewhat isolated with the ball in hand, and they're going to go for the scrum again, which again is a sensible option.
It is. It's all, it's almost a carbon copy of what we discussed last time around. A couple of Jed subs coming on, one of which looks like Nicky Bates.
Nicky Bates running onto the field with his long locks flowing, and I think he's perhaps here to try and just shore up the scrum and make it a little bit more difficult to nudge this Jedforest side over the line. If this is to go the way of a try in the next minute or so, you've got to say that Jedforest are almost condemned to National 1. But if they can stay here, there is still some time to try and get something from this game.
Yeah, I
don't see it.
It's hard to see now how Jed can get themselves out the foot of the table predicament that they're in. As I mentioned before, they'll battle on to the end. But yeah, it looks a wee bit of a foregone conclusion now, I'm sad to say.
It's a steadier scrum though.
Yeah.
It's certainly the
Bates,
effect of Bates has done well, because it never got nudged back whatsoever. The pressure on Andrew McComb at the tail as well, but Cochrane comes round the corner. He carries forward. Westlake barking the orders at the back of that ruck. He wants Petty, he wants some of his more turgid forwards to deploy. But the Jedforest defence just drives the suitors back a couple of yards more. Westlake back into the pocket. Aaron McComb wanting some support back inside, but he's got it for Pickles on the outside shoulder, and he weaves and marauds his way towards the try line. And we thought it was perhaps going to be one of the bulkier players in the Selkirk side to get the score, but it's the lightweight Pickles. Snake Hips managed to get his way through that defensive line and go over for a score.
Yeah, great finish from the youngster. Been a real fillip for the Philip Haw men to have him back in the fold after his stint at the Southern Knights. And yet, Selkirk, they've been efficient this afternoon. They've been professional with the territory and possession that they've had, and you have to say, Dale, they've been good value for this victory and the margin of it.
It's been, I think the conditions perhaps have been a bit of a leveller, because Selkirk have scored well over their average per game, and Jedforest have at the moment conceded well under their average per game. The additional 2 points added there from Alderson, it means it's 33 points to 12 that Selkirk lead, and it's probably, you can write into the books now that it's going to be a Selkirk victory. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be here. But another conversion attempt for Alderson, and he's been a good find for the suitors as well.
Definitely, yeah, it certainly has.
Carry, the kick-off is gathered by McComb, so the carry forward is a trusty one, and the kick forward from Callum Anderson has resulted in a penalty to Selkirk. The referee just blasting his whistle, and the longer this game goes on and the more the decisions go the way of Selkirk, the happier they'll be, the more comfortable they'll be, and I think they'll just want to keep the ball at a nice pedestrian pace and slow this game down as Anderson just lumps the ball into the car park yet again, over the stand and deep into the Jed half.
Yeah, been one of the top performers for me this afternoon, Callum Anderson. There's been a few in the Selkirk ranks who have put their hand up.
And it's perhaps something that we obviously don't do on Rugby Radio, but if there is one person in the game that's perhaps changed things, it probably has been Anderson. You know, he's been a bit of a spark and a bit of everything in this game. But the driving maul is run aground. The referee going to award the scrum put in, but yeah, he's probably been one of the standout players in this suitor side.
Yeah, I would imagine it gives the 14 men in front of him a great deal of sort of comfort and confidence when he's at the back there. You know, he's got the attacking ability, he's got the pace to pick a line and go through it, but as mentioned before, he's got that absolute siege gun of a left boot, and you know, particularly for the forwards, when you know that you've got the likes of him that can send it down the park and release the pressure.
I think he's almost found his position as well. I do like him as a 10, but I just think at fullback he looks like he's exuding confidence. So it's very nice to see him in that 15 jersey for Selkirk. The scrum in front of the stand there. The ball picked up by Fotheringham. He's not able just to swat off Scott McClyman, who tackles him like a loose yow at tennis. He does well to stop any marauding run from the number 8. The ball now getting a little bit wider through the hands of Marshall and Cullen. A little kick of the heels and a power through the challenge. And they're going to have to do well to just get back and shackle the live wire fullback. He's over the 10 metre line now. He twists and weaves and just gets himself into the most uncomfortable of positions in contact, but always ends up upright as the ball is presented back to Selkirk. They've made a fist of that at the ruck breakdown, and the referee is signalling there's going to be a penalty there. So all that hard work from Mason Cullen is being coughed up, as his language perhaps suggests his displeasure at that from his teammates. But Callum Anderson's got a chance to kick it downfield and continue to see the game off in Jedforest territory. A couple of minutes left here at Riverside Park, and it's still currently Jedforest 12, Selkirk 33. And Bruce Riddle, after a little bit of time in the grounded 10 minutes in the sin bin, he's got a chance to throw it into this line out. A little bit of movement at the front and then movement to the tail. Liam Cassidy, he gets fingertips to it, but has just been outstretched there. He was man of the match against the Glasgow Hawks last weekend. Played a lot of time in second team rugby, but got a chance in first team and was part of the catalyst that got them back. Great hands from Gregor Law to bring Brodie Irvine into play. Elder again distributing the ball. Skeldon and tips the ball on and brings one of his teammates into play. The Bates now, and takes a couple of players to join arms and get round him, but Turnbull was there ready to offer his services up. The ball into the hands of Gregor Young, but it's been knocked on in a sarcastic round of applause from the spectators. And now Cam Eason, who's been a replacement for Selkirk, gets the ball wide to Callum Anderson, who physically just twists out of the challenge. Alderson has got Andrew McComb now. There'll be a challenge on Scott McClymont, so it looks like there's going to be a penalty advantage coming as well. And it might be the first card of the afternoon for Jedforest, but I think Ben Fotheringham's going to have a little conversation. It's either Gregor Young or Cranston, sorry, but maybe not, because Skeldon has just been asked to have an impromptu meeting with the referee, and perhaps at this stage a yellow card would do nothing for this game anyway.
It's not going to do anything for the game yet, but
a chance here for Selkirk to just kick downfield.
Yeah, decent attacking position, and you'd imagine he'll do exactly that, Dale, especially now that Riddle's back on the paddock and they've got somebody that can throw into a line.
Anderson makes his way calmly to the referee's position and then scoops it off the field. And perhaps maybe didn't make the distance that he looked at initially, but he safely made it off just above the head of a cluster of Selkirk supporters on the sidelines who are watching on here as the darkness has now surrounded us at Jed. The pitch illuminated, but there's little light to be seen in this campaign for Jedforest towards the end of the season. Still winless in the Premiership. The ricocheting ball now in the dead ball area, and the referee has spotted that there's a knock on. The game gotten very scrappy, but you've got to imagine that this defeat, because the referee has just blasted the final whistle, and you've got to imagine that this defeat is probably the most damaging one so far in Jedforest's campaign. A home defeat to Selkirk means that they now trail. They were the next team in the table if at the start of the day. It certainly was Selkirk, so they're now 22 points behind Selkirk in the table, so there's little to no hope to be able to overturn that, but they are yet to win so far in this campaign. But in the second half, Selkirk just able to pull away. It was almost two halves which replicated each other somewhat, but in the second half, tries from Callum Anderson, Meadows got a reply, and Ben Pickles as well for Selkirk. That was the scores in the second half, and it was almost one of those games which panned out pretty much the way that we thought it was going to.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dale. Selkirk, as I mentioned before, I feel are good value for that victory and the winning margin. Jed, they huffed and they puffed, and there was plenty of effort, plenty of endeavour, but I think just the extra bit of quality that was littered across the Selkirk ranks, if you like, when compared to the home side, just was the difference, and enabled them to score the tries that they scored.
Sesh Henderson's obviously made a difference at Selkirk, and before we hand back to Stuart Cameron, obviously you've got quite close links to Jedforest. This defeat in itself and the way that the season has went for Jed, how do you feel this is received? Do you think this is a moment of positivity to go, look, we've got a lot of good young players coming through. Let's talk about Jamie Ferguson, Mark Glenn, who obviously couldn't play today. Cranston's been good in the centre. They've got a lot of good players in that squad. As Alicia Keys almost interrupted us there. But how do you think Jed will be feeling at the moment as a club?
I think they have to be realistic about where they are and what's happened this season and what the rest of the season looks like. I mean, yes, mathematically they can still stay up. Realistically, it's not going to happen. Let's be candidly honest about it. I think they have to look forward from now, look at personnel, look at who's going to continue to be at the club into next season, and just start to build for the campaign next season in National 1.
Well, they've got 6 games left in the season to do that in their next fixture for Jedforest to try and get the first victory of the campaign is away at Musselburgh. Selkirk, on the other hand, they welcome Mar to Philiphaugh next weekend. So it is Selkirk who leave here with a victory. 12 points to 33 they win, and they put a huge gulf in between them and Jedforest in the table in the quest for survival in the Premiership.
We'll be getting some reaction on this match, Jedforest against Selkirk, very, very soon, and also around the country. In fact, earlier on, it was a big result for Ayr, stay top of the table, unbeaten. Dundee 15, Ayr 43, and we can hear now from head coach Grant Anderson.
The game was moved away from Mayfield to some absolute shocking pitch. I think it's actually Morgan Rugby Club. Pitch was horrendous, weather was horrendous, but I was really, really pleased with the grit that the boys showed. We put Dundee under enough pressure that it meant that we could then capitalise on their mistakes, and was really, really pleased with our forward performance. Outstanding performance from the 8 guys that started and then the 4 guys who then came on. So really, really pleased. On a difficult day to come away up here, like I said earlier on in the week, obviously, a difficult place to come, especially under these circumstances. We only found out the change of pitch this morning, but I'll not go into that. But yeah, really, really pleased, delighted.
Grant Anderson, the head coach of Ayr. What about Berwick? They got their first win of the season at home to Stirling County. Ali Grieve.
Stirling was a good side and they threw everything at us, especially in the second half. We played really well and had a good defensive shape, and we were clinical in the first half, which we scored 4 tries through myself, Aidan Rosie and Ryan Wilson scored 2. We're disappointed not to add more in the second half when we had chances. The boys are over the moon that we've won our first game of the season, and hopefully we can push on to next week and take Cody away and hopefully take the W there as well.
So good to hear from Ali Grieve. A win for Berwick, and they're off the bottom of the table because Aberdeen Grammar in National 2 lost by 50 points to 10 at home today to Falkirk. In the Premiership, it was Curry 52, Musselburgh 10, Edinburgh Accies 17, Heriots Blues 31. That's a full-time result. We'll come back to that one in a second. Jedforest 12, Selkirk 33. It ended here at Riverside Park. It ended Kelso 20, Hawick 28. So a very, very different result to the previous match at Mansfield Park. So 28 points to 20. There's a try bonus for Hawick in that one. Ross Graham was red carded in that match as well. Mar 31, Glasgow Hawks 14 in the Premiership. In National 1, as we've heard, Dundee 15, Ayr 43, Gala 56, GHK 12, Glasgow Accies 17, Watsonians 18, Melrose 29, Biggar 45 is a result. We're still waiting on the result of Highland against GHA. The last we heard, it was Highland 3, GHA 21, which is all good news, of course, for a certain team called Ayr in Millbrae. But Robin Purdy is now with 2 of the members of the game that was played today, Selkirk against Jedforest here at Riverside Park. I think Callum Anderson is going to be first up. Robin, over to you.
Callum, congratulations first of all on the victory. Jed came out and made a decent start, but you guys soaked up what Jed threw at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best our D's been all season. Our discipline wasn't great. A few boys coming in for Super 6, the rules are slightly different. You can hit a bit higher, so maybe that's part of it. But no, really happy with the win. Can't complain coming here and getting 5 points.
Yeah, and after Jed's decent start, you guys scored 3 quick-fire tries. You must have been delighted to establish a strong first-half lead after being slow starters in some games this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously happy to get a few tries, but the game definitely wasn't done at that point. We had to come out in the second half and even just see out the first half down to 14. But again, our D probably got us the win in the end.
And you mentioned yourself, Callum, that the number of penalties. There was 11 in the first half. Was that something that you spoke about at half time?
Yeah, I mean, when you're defending as much as that, it's hard not to give away penalties. Like I say, a few high tackles, a few maybe folk not rolling away and stuff like that. But on the whole, we managed to. It was just 5 points out in the first half. So on the whole, we're happy with our defence. But yeah, next week definitely we can't give away that many penalties.
And you came out straight after half time. You scored the try that more or less put the game to bed, as well as getting you the 4 try bonus.
Yeah, again, like I said, even after scoring the 3, the job wasn't done at that point. They're a team that's good enough to come out and score 5, 6, 7 tries just in one half. So when you still had to play in the right areas, nothing really changed tactic-wise. We're still going to kick it down there and make it hard for them. But yeah, again, just happy to take the win.
And a word for your new signing, Kieran Westlake. He looks a decent acquisition.
Yeah, really good. I mean, he's physical, he's a good lad, he's settled in well, and he's obviously got a job as DO, so I've been seeing him around the club quite a lot, which is good.
And next up for you guys, Mar at Philip Haw. Next week you'll be heading into that in the finest of fettle, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite. Well, I've been up at the seniors. I don't think we've beat them at home, so it's definitely a scalp we're looking to take. But I don't know how they got on today. You said they won, but we've got enough confidence in the team that we can put teams like that to bed, but it's just getting it across over 80 minutes and see where we are after the 80.
Well, we wish you well for that one next week, and like I say, congratulations on the win today.
Cheers, thank you.
Joined here by Gregor Young. Gregor, commiserations. First of all, you came out, as I mentioned to Callum, you guys made a decent start. You didn't take an early 3-pointer that was bang in front. Was that kind of always the game plan? You know, was it always the sort of thinking that, well, we need tries and ultimately we need a bonus point?
No, it wasn't the game plan. I think that's just really players not taking responsibility, and somebody just does something that they shouldn't have. We would rather have took the points because we haven't started well at all in any of our games, and we thought getting a 3 points lead would maybe change it for us, and we go and do something like that, but I think that just sums up our season.
And Selkirk then scored those 3 quick tries. Were you a wee bit surprised by their efficiency in possession?
Well, I think we know that they're pretty strong up front, but we should be able to match that, and we didn't. Maybe we were a bit shocked at just how intense they were at the driving maul, but really we should be defending that.
And after they'd scored those tries to go 19-0 up, you did get a lifeline with Elliot Lauder's try just before half time. What was the chat in the sheds at half time? Was it the plan to turn it around in the second half?
Again, we talk about starting well. We tried to start well in the first half. Again, we come out there and it's just totally off the boil, and we give away another score straight after half time, and it's just so hard to bounce back from that. And yeah, we're just not really doing what we're asking of each other. So
yeah, I mean, it did look that was the game put to bed when that try was scored, unfortunately for you guys. But you must be proud to an extent at just the way the boys just kept battling on.
Well, early on in the season the white flags were getting put up straight away, but the past few games we've tried to stick in at the end, and we just need to keep plugging on. Yes, we're in a massive hole, but hopefully we'll try and snap out of it and pick up a couple of wins to just boost the morale at the club.
And a word for Gregor Law. It's really great to see him back.
It's massive to see him back. I thought he came on there and started his dominance. He made a few hard tackles, a few good carries, and that's just confidence boost for him. So hopefully he can keep plugging away and maybe pick up a start the next few weeks.
And Musselburgh away for you guys next week. It doesn't really get any easier.
No, and we've not got a good record up there, so hopefully we can put on a good performance. We're going to have a good week at training, try and pull together again and just take it as it comes.
Well, we wish you all the best for it next week, Gregor. Keep plugging away.
Cheers, thank you.
We can speak now to Neil Armstrong. Edinburgh Accies losing today at home to Heriots Blues. He's talking to Sam Matthews.
Neil Armstrong joins me now. Obviously, immediate tough loss, but what's the initial reaction to that from you and the coaching staff?
Just heartbroken, to be honest. It's tough. Heriots have beaten us home and away this year, and it's hard to come back from that. As a group, we just didn't turn up in the first half. When the game was more on the line and we realised that we're going to lose, then we start turning up, and we can't really afford to do that. But on to Mansfield next week, and hopefully we just look at turning our season around now.
You mentioned that you've got Mansfield next week as well, but the one highlight you can take away from that, obviously your final try through Finlay McNeil at the end there, you almost went the length of the park. So what can you take away from that as the coaching staff for the positives?
Well, we spoke about after the game there, we need to get back to playing the rugby we enjoy, and getting our wingers involved in the wide channels. We love playing expansive rugby. We probably kicked too much, especially in that first half, and that goes away from what we're good at. And we just need to try and get. We've got these strong runners on the wings, and we need to get them involved because they do score tries for us.
You mentioned your wingers there as well, but there was noticeably quite a few changes. I think there's 4 changes in the starting 15 today compared to last week. That sort of seems to be around the number every week, kind of based on my analysis from it. How pivotal is it just trying to get the same 15 boys on a pitch every week in terms of just communication and understanding?
Well, I mean, obviously, continuity is massive. If we can get a group of guys together playing week in, week out, that massively keeps everything quite streamlined, and we get all the detail right that way. But these guys coming in, we've got a lot of strength and depth, and these guys coming in are doing a hell of a shift for us. So I've got nothing, can't say anything there. I think if you look across the league, I'm sure I saw something. We've got one of the highest, player usage rates so far, and we've suffered a lot of injuries which have impacted us. But we've got the quality coming onto the pitch, so we should be winning these games. Unfortunately, it's just not happening right now.
Joined by the winning captain this afternoon, Ali Johnston. Ali, first of all, how was this build-up for you this week? Obviously, the defeat last week was sort of the talk of the town after that narrow loss to Kelso. How important was it getting it rectified this week?
Yeah, well, it's been a tough 5 weeks on the road for us, and we wanted to rectify it with Kelso, but they're a gritty team, and they really stuck it to us at home. So it was really important for us to come down to Rayburn Place today and get a win. And I think we did that by just sustaining pressure in the right areas, which is what our game plan was, and we just executed it well.
And then 2 tries very early on in the game. How important was it to start off strong and sort of have the game under your control in that manner?
Yeah, like I said, it was about sustaining pressure in the right areas, and that's really easy scoring tries when you're in their half, and really hard scoring tries when you're running from your own half. And like I said, we just executed our game plan really well and kept them pinned in their half, so it was good.
And a gritty day today, but some of your boys really led for the front. Kirkpatrick and Jackson, hooker and open side flanker notably. How good is it when you can have tacklers like that in your team that I don't think missed a tackle today?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it's a lot easier when we put the pressure on them, and we've got boys like that just love hitting low, and it's just so hard for the opposition to get out when you've got boys hitting them that low. So hats off to them. Hats off to the whole forward pack as well. I think we all fronted up brilliantly today.
And then obviously it's looking quite set at the bottom of the table with the situation Jed's in at the moment. So how do you boys keep yourself galvanised the second half of the season?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule Jed out. Obviously they've had a really tough season. See how they do today, but they're definitely not a team to lie down. No, none of the Borders teams are. So we definitely won't switch off when we're going down there to play them. But we've got Curry to face first next week. So next job first.
There we are, that's Sam Matthews at Rayburn Place from earlier on. We can go to Graham Dodds now. He's at the Green Yards. Melrose losing at home to Biggar.
In a game of 2 halves here at the Green Yards, Melrose started brightly in the first half, 24-14 lead at half time, fairly dominant, throwing the ball about, scoring some good tries. Second half totally turned on its head. Biggar forward pack had massive superiority at set piece, and they really came to the fore along with their outside centre, scoring 2 tries. Biggar were very much worthy of their win this afternoon here at Wet Green Yards. Melrose will be very disappointed because they did play well for the first 40, but final score here at the Green Yards was Biggar 45, Melrose 29.
Thank you to Graham Dodds on Rugby Radio. Coming towards the end of the programme, just in, Peebles have just got past Stumel 25 points to 23, so that was some match down at the Geights, and I can tell you that Highland have definitely lost at home today to GHA. That's their first home loss of the season, and that puts Ayr very much in control. Let's have a quick look, in fact, at the tables. We can bring you that right now. Unofficial, but this is what it looks like to us. Hawick in first place with 51 points. In second, Mar 47. Third, Curry 42. Fourth, Enbrackies on 36. Fifth place, Herits Blues bouncing back again after today. 34 points for them. That's the same amount as Musselburgh, but a better points difference for Herits Blues in 6th. 7th, it's Kelso on 30. 8th, Selkirk 25. 9th, Glasgow Hawks 22. And in 10th position with 3 points, I'm afraid it's Jedforest. International 1, Ayr at the top, 53. Highland second, 37. Third, Glasgow Accies, 34. Fourth, Melrose, 33. Fifth, Gala, also 33. Sixth, GHA on 29. Seventh, Watsonians on 28. Biggar in 8th place on 22. Dundee in 9th on 17. And GHK are in 10th position with 13 points. International 2, top of the table, it's still Lasswade, 43 points after their draw today. Second, Falkirk, 42. Peebles, despite that win, dropped to third place. In 4th position, it's Gordonians, 35, and Newton Stewart, 35 in 5th place. And a big gap down to Stirling County, 6th place for them, 21 points. Kirkcaldy, 7th on 16. Stumel, 8th on 16. Berwick, with their win today, up to 9th. with 13 points, and Aberdeen Grammar have 10 points. So the closing headlines in the Premiership: there were wins for Curry, for Heriots Blues, Selkirk, Hawick and also for Mar. In National 1, victories went to Ayr, Gala, Watsonians, GHA and Biggar. In National 2, wins for Falkirk, Berwick, Gordonians and Peebles, and that draw for Newton Stewart against Lasswade. Don't forget our weekly Scottish Club Rugby podcast, which is out now. We'll be back from Millbrae next week for Ayr against Melrose. Thanks to the team and a very good night.